Is that us?
Hello.
Who has reverb?
I hope that's not us.
Do you get reverb from us?
No, I don't hear it.
But you know who got the real light? Look at that light a little better though.
Hello.
Oh, it's up.
Do you get reverb from us?
No, I don't hear it.
You get reverb from us?
Mm-mm.
Real light, look at that light a little better though. Real light, look at that light
It's up.
better though. Real light, look at that light better though.
If you guys are watching on YouTube, you gotta cut it down.
It's up.
You gotta let go.
You gotta mute your YouTube. Otherwise, it's gonna turn into an echo.
Hello, everybody. I hear we have some.
You gotta mute your YouTube. Otherwise, it's gonna turn into an echo.
Hello. Hello, everybody. Can everyone hear okay?
This is crazy echo.
Okay, I'm hearing an echo.
Whose YouTube is still on? That is probably what's happening. Can somebody have a YouTube in their screen and you're hearing the echo, like the playback?
You ain't got YouTube.
Oh, maybe it's me.
Yeah, Taurus, I think it's you.
That's probably what it is, and you're hearing the yeah.
That was me. Oh my God.
There we go.
Okay, it's him, okay.
I'm sitting there like, what the fuck is going on?
Okay, hello
Okay.
everyone,
Hi.
and thank you for joining us today. We are going to be discussing, or we're going to be having, well, let me introduce myself first. My name is Dana Cole. I'm a photographer based out of Norway. I think most of you guys know me. So today we're going to be having a chat with some of these other fabulous photographers that you see on your screen right now for a meeting of the minds today. I'm going to let them introduce themselves, and then we are going to answer we're going to have some discussions and topics. And then at the end, you guys, we're going to have a Q&A so that you can ask us any questions you may have that we did not answer, or you're just curious about something commercial. The topic is going to be all things commercial, editorial, and so forth. So that is what we are going to be talking about here. Someone said there's an echo. Does anyone hear an echo?
We hear it with you.
Yeah.
Are all your sound making windows closed? Other than your
Hello,
Zoom.
everybody. Okay. I'm not hearing an echo though, so I'm not sure.
Well, it sound. I love that window.
Thank you.
Shit.
Okay, so we're going to start, you guys, with your introductions, and when you're not speaking, if you can mute your audio, so there's no echoing or anything from anyone's mic. So we are going to start with Stevie. Go ahead and introduce yourself to everyone. Start, you guys, with,
My name is Stevie
your,
Reed. I go by Stevie D.
introductions, and when you're
I'm a
not
beauty and
speaking,
fashion
if you can
photographer
mute
based in
your,
Houston, Texas.
audio, so
Originally from Detroit. What up, though?
there's no.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm Antonio Martez, a beauty and fashion photographer based right here in New York City.
Hi, I'm Lindsay Weatherspoon. I am a commercial editorial and portrait photographer based out of Atlanta, Georgia.
Hi, I'm Taylor Brumfield. I'm based out of Woodbridge, Virginia. That's near DC. And I am a commercial beauty and product photographer.
Hi, I'm Lindsay Weatherspoon. I am a commercial editorial and portrait.
Am I
Hi,
next?
this is. Go ahead.
My name is Loretta Houston, and I'm a beauty fashion photographer based out of LA.
Hi, this is Dallas, and
Jay.
we're commercial beauty fashion portrait,
All that.
product photographer based in Los Angeles, not too far from Loretta.
Okay, my name is Taurus Love, and I'm a fashion photographer based in Brooklyn, New York.
How you guys doing? My name is Antoine. I am a beauty, fashion, editorial, all of the above photographer based in the DMV area. I'm in Maryland, but you know, it's all the same for us.
And I'm a fashion photographer based.
I think we have Leslie and Antonio who hadn't done their introduction yet.
What are y'all?
Antonio or Leslie, but your mute's on, so if you can unmute so we can hear you and you can introduce yourself.
Actually, it was right after Stevie. I already introduced myself. We was actually had a moment of silence, just waiting on Leslie or for you.
Okay. Hi.
Leslie?
Hi, I'm Leslie Andrews. I am a fashion, beauty, and portrait photographer based in Atlanta, Georgia.
Perfect. And I am Dana Cole. I am based out of Oslo, Norway. I am a fashion, beauty, and product commercial photographer, and I also do editorial. And I think that's everyone introducing themselves. Yes?
Yep.
Okay, so now we're going to go into the discussions here, and yeah, so that is what we're going to do. I'm going to flip this so I can see, and there's no echo, right? Everyone can hear okay?
No, we good.
Okay, because there was a little echo earlier. Yeah, we good. Okay. All right, you guys. So let's just get into some of these topics that we are going to talk about now. And if you want to chat, since there's a few of us in here, so we don't start all talking at the same time, just kind of, raise your hand or, wink to let us know that you want to chat. So we don't all try to chat at the same time. Okay, so let's start with how have you found working in the commercial industry? How have you found it working in the commercial industry?
So if I'm understanding the question properly, I guess like what is my experience in general working in the commercial industry?
Yeah, what has been your experience?
Well, I've enjoyed it so far. I really enjoy it. I can set my own schedule. I can work at my own pace. I can take clients as I want and or need them. And I can take the projects that I really, really enjoy. I'm really enjoying that aspect. I also like the fact that I am allowed a lot of creative direction because I work with smaller brands, and brands that don't have they're still growing in terms of their understanding of branding and marketing. And I have an extensive background. I have about an 8-year background in branding and marketing and retail merchandising and product development. So I've really been enjoying the fact that I can have like a really integral hand in helping the brands that I work with. So far I love it here. I'm enjoying what I do.
Awesome. Anyone else?
I think for me, being new to the New York area, I started my career out in Miami. Miami is a different little animal compared to the beast of New York City, where the creative market is very intense here. You really have to be on the top of your game to really compete in a market where some of the best creators in the world reside, and also to travel back and forth to here from overseas, different places. So for me, it's an eye-opening. It makes you level up your creativity, level up your photography game to really bring the best out of you creatively as well as a photography business.
Awesome. Terrace, how about you?
Well, I don't really consider myself a commercial photographer because I don't really work with brands. I specifically work with, fashion models, agencies, things like that. And that's kind of been my experience in terms of working with photography. And, I haven't started working with brands or anything yet. So I have absolutely zero experience, dealing with the brands.
So we will definitely touch bases on working with models and so forth as well very shortly. But Antoine, how about yourself? How have you found the working in the commercial industry for you? How's your experience been?
So mine was a little bit, I don't know how everybody else background is. Mine was a little bit different. I started out when I was in Korea about 8 years ago when I lived there for 5 years. And that's kind of how I started photography. And for me, it was very difficult. I just kind of got into it from my mentor, James Anthony. And it was very hard because Koreans are very, the culture is like, we're going to use our own people. So it was very, it wasn't like a race kind of a thing. It was just like, these are our people, and I would hit up, different magazines and do different things like that. And they're like, nope, we already have our people to do it. So it was very difficult. So when I transitioned from Korea back to the US, it was very different because it was more welcoming. I was able to do a lot of stuff with magazines, models, brands, companies, so forth. So it was a big difference.
Right.
So for me right now, it's going well.
That's good to hear. Lindsay, how about yourself?
So I am originally from Birmingham, Alabama, and as I said earlier, I live in Atlanta now. But being in smaller markets, I feel like that was like the turning point of my career, because when you work in smaller markets, you get a little bit more hands-on with people that you meet. So though I didn't have the opportunity to work with some of the other commercial photographers, which, to be honest, were mostly white men in Birmingham, I decided to move to Atlanta. Now I understood that moving here meant that I was just going to be a fish in a large pond. But being around more people who look like me, who have that same drive instead of feeling like they have to stay in a certain city to make it, is what pushed my commercial career. Now I'm actually, I feel like the outsider, but still inside the group that we have here today. I'm much more of a corporate commercial photographer. So though I love everyone that's here and I love the work and I've seen it and, really enjoy it, but I shoot, in a different sector, but all in all, commercial is commercial work. So of course we have Coca-Cola here. We also have other large brands here that I've worked with in Atlanta. And that's pretty much how I walked into it. I started off as a wedding and portrait photographer and decided to scrap that because I knew that was kind of like a means to an end, like practicing to get to where I want to be today. So that's like my snippet of my journey into the commercial photography world.
Awesome.
I wanted to ask Loretta specifically, because you were in Atlanta for a long time and then you moved to LA. Like, what was the differences in being a photographer in Atlanta and being a photographer based in LA, and how's that work for you?
I think I'm dead in the middle. And when I say that because although I'm editorial, I shoot very clean. So that makes my clientele a little bit more broader. I love Atlanta. My daddy's from Atlanta, you know. I just felt that I had reached a peak in Atlanta. And I needed bigger clients and bigger commercial clients. So sometimes you just have to like leave what's comfortable and go somewhere uncomfortable to get your dreams going, you know, and get those clients that you want. And so that is the reason why I moved to Atlanta. I appreciate Atlanta. I had one of my first commercial clients was Spanx, you know, so I learned, got molded in Atlanta, and I took that and, you know, brought it with me to LA.
Awesome. I want to touch and hear from I have not heard from yet. Dallas and Day and Leslie. I would like to hear you guys' answers on how have you found or how have you find the commercial industry thus far? Dallas and Day for sure, because I know you guys started in New York and now you're in LA. So I know that's two different, like Loretta, that's two different markets. So yeah.
You supposed to start? Because you started making it sound. So what happened is New York was an incredible market for us out there. We had a lot of clientele. And we got a lot of work. But what happened was New York became really, really saturated. And cliquish. And very cliquish. So we decided to pick up and move to California and get our feet wet here. By the grace of God, we hit the ground running. The difference is the types of brands that are out here versus New York. The types of models are different. The types of clients are different. How they approach their work is different. That when you're not from here, I understand when they say that New Yorkers can be aggressive. It's not that we're aggressive. It's just that we stay on top of things. So clients here are very laxed. And there's no sense of urgency. It's like, oh, we can shoot Tuesday or maybe not. And so I'm here having to order equipment, book models, book studio space. I have everybody on the phone like, what are we going to do this? And they go, oh, well, you know, it's going to rain on Wednesday. Let's do it next week. And it's like,
very lax.
So we had to get used to that. Also, we had to get used to the style of photography out here. Our work, we stick out like sore thumbs. Loretta sticks out like a sore thumb. We stick out like a sore thumb for the type of work that they do here. But because we stick out like sore thumbs, we're sought after.
Yeah. So
our selling point is saying we're New York style photographers. Oh, we want that New York look. We want that New York grit. Or we want that New York slickness. So that's awesome. And
when our clients are from New York, they're more on top of it. So I have to say that you can tell when the clients from the East Coast and work in the New York market because they're a lot faster.
They're a lot more on point.
I love LA. LA has treated us so well, and it has continued to treat us well. And it's just they show us a lot of love. New York still shows us love. We still fly back. We're in between. We go back and forth from New York to LA. We try to make it home at least twice. And then
when we're there, those times we're completely swamped.
Yeah.
Like when Loretta goes to Atlanta, I know when she puts, I'm going to Atlanta. Before she finished clicking send, she's already swamped.
Yeah.
It's like
it's fun. I love LA. I love New York, and I wouldn't change it. I wish they were closer together though.
Yeah. Don't we all? Miss Leslie, how about yourself? How have you found the commercial industry thus far? And also how did you get started in it?
I found that the commercial industry here in Atlanta, it can be a little bit sporadic. It's not the work that I'm consistently doing. It's a little bit harder to book commercial jobs here. And I'm still trying to, I guess, figure it all out. But yeah, I've done a handful of commercial jobs. And basically the bulk of my work is working with smaller brands, the entrepreneurs, the just people that are starting off in launching a business and just helping them with their brand and doing the photography that they'll need. The bigger commercial jobs I found are a little bit harder to get here. And it's also can be a little bit cliquish in finding out those jobs. But during this little break of the stay-at-home order, I'm kind of learning a lot more about the process. So I'm figuring some things out, and hopefully I can get more of those assignments, those larger assignments, working with big brands. So that's the goal.
Awesome. So I'm going to answer this question myself. I just wanted to let everyone else speak first. So for me, I didn't necessarily start commercial photography until I moved here to Norway. And back in Texas, I was doing just portrait and all that type of stuff. But it wasn't until I moved here when I really found my voice, I guess, so to say, in photography, and really honed in on what I wanted to photograph, and that was fashion, beauty, and recently I started doing product, which has been great as well. And then I just kind of took it from there and just started approaching, well, we all know, we'll get into that a little bit later of how to do that, but that's how I started with commercial. The market here is very like, here in Norway, the market is like very, very commercial, like almost bland, boring commercial, which is fine. I can photograph that, but I find that my style of commercial would be better suited for maybe London or Paris. A lot of the commercial work I do is for not actually for here in Norway. It's for others. Some of it's for the States and some of it's for other parts of the world, which I find a bit interesting. So that is my story of how I'm finding the industry right now, as far as commercial stuff. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to ask you guys the next question, and that is going to be, I have a few questions. So this particular question is going to be, as a Black commercial photographer, working in these specific industries and with the people we work with, have you had any issues? Have you faced any adversities? And I'm going to let each of you answer this because I feel this is a good question that our followers, or the people watching, I don't want to say followers, but the people watching will have some interest in. So Stevie, I'm going to start with you. Doing commercial photography, have you thus far faced any adversities or issues? Have you found it hard to get certain jobs? Are you being like mistaken for like being an assistant and not the actual photographer, things like that?
Oh yeah, I'm pretty comfortable and say we probably all face some adversity in the commercial space, especially being a Black photographer. When I originally came over to the commercial space from retail, there was just not a lot of resources to help me identify some of the areas where I needed to focus the business side on. So I faced a lot of adversity with like pricing, giving people contracts. Some people, and unfortunately, when I gave them contracts, they didn't want to deal with me when I know that some of my white counterparts gave them similar contracts. So some of those things I've had to deal with, but I think for the most part, remaining firm at what you're trying to do is the best course of action. And sometimes those clients are just not worth it if they're not going to, play by the rules that they play by with other photographers versus you, then you don't want them as clients anyway. So those are some of the things that I faced with adversity, being a Black photographer. And also in my studio, a lot of times I have commercial clients rent my studio out and they ask me, hey, can you get the owner? And I'm like, well, I am the owner.
So some of that perception is that, Black photographers don't have all the things that some of our white photographers have.
Right. That's very true, Stevie, especially on it's interesting that you say that, because it's like they assume even if we go into gear, even if we go into studio space, it's like, oh, you can't afford this gear, or, oh, you have your own studio? What? It's like they expect us to be not to have nice gear, not to have a studio, not to I don't know. It's interesting, but Antonio, I'm going to let you speak now on your, yeah.
I think with me, it's been an interesting ride, being an African American photographer in fashion and beauty. Especially being homegrown and raised out of rural Eastern North Carolina. Being a little Black boy coming up out of the country, and people started undermining your work once you start hearing my voice and telling them country, and they're like, what does a little Black boy know about fashion and beauty? So it was a hard sell at first to get into the career, but once I got to the point where my work started excelling, I started letting my work speak for itself, and my work will actually give me the opportunity to open the doors. And I tell everyone, don't get caught up in the skin color barrier, because at the end of the day, if your work is great, keep pushing it, keep dominating with it, because that will make your true essence of who you are as a person surpass the blinders of what people see when they see your skin color. Unfortunately, the world we live in, it's a very touchy situation. But as a Black creative, you have to really, just push forth ahead, and don't let those no's slow you down, because you will face those many no's before you get that one yes. And that's all you need, is that one yes to make your career go off and excel.
Very true. Don't get turned off by someone telling you no, because you'll get many no's. You'll get a few yeses, and then more no's, and then maybe a yes and more no's. But definitely don't get discouraged by the no's. Taurus.
Well, I'm from Memphis, Tennessee, where the city is like 85% Black. So before I moved to New York, I was only dealing with like Black clients, because the white clients were like high society and they wasn't checking for me at all. They would check for my work till I showed up and they saw that the person that made that shit was brown. And then they would come up with all these excuses as to why they couldn't work with me. Like, I actually had like the agency in Memphis call me in to meet with them to talk about us working together. And then when I got there and they saw that I was brown, they had all these reasons of why we couldn't work together yet. And I was like, who called somebody in to tell them why we ain't gonna fuck with you? Like, are you crazy? So after that, that was my final straw to move to New York. And so once I came to New York, the barrier that I was dealing with was they would only give me Black people to work with. They saw, oh, he shoots Black people wonderfully. Send them to him, send them to him. And I was like, well, send me some other ones too. And they would send me, I remember one agency sent me this white boy, literally straight from the airport. Nobody was checking for him. But as soon as I worked with him, he had a body of work. And the first job he booked was Dior. And so then here comes the white people. And now I got to beg for Black kids. And those was the kinds of things that I dealt with as a Black creative. And so like Black people wouldn't hire me unless they saw white people in my work. And white people wouldn't hire me unless they saw white people in my work. And so I was getting the pressure, and I'm pretty sure that everybody sitting on this page probably gets the pressure to produce for white people. You want to see white people all through the body of work and things like that. And my thing was, I worked to produce for me first. And that's part of the reason why I don't really work for brands and things like that, because I get to control my own narrative. And I wanted to see people that looked like me. I was like, it's enough people out there representing them. And I didn't like that I have to search for us. So I said, well, I'll be the space where I get to see people that look like me in the way that I want to do it and all of that. And I never kind of bowed down to whiten up my body of work. So, I mean, because I could easily put out a portfolio where it's just white people, but I didn't want to. It was enough people doing that. And so those were the kind of things that I deal with, the backlash from Black people wanting to see more credible white folks. And in the end, I think that white people were just happy to see good work. They kind of said, okay, he's going to put out Black folks, but he can give us some of that 5 too. So those were kinds of things that I was dealing with and that I still deal with as a Black creative.
Awesome. I mean, not awesome, but
I got a quick question, because like I said, I'm familiar with a lot of you all's work. What's your take when you have like your Essence magazine or folks like that hiring other photographers versus Black photographers? That's something that I'm very interested in learning from you all.
I think that's bullshit. Essence magazine is supposed to be our voice, but why does it got to be filtered through somebody else's eye? That should be the real place where we all get together and show our voice. That should definitely be the go-to place for all of us, but it's not, because it's that whole thing. They want to be credible, valid, and Essence isn't owned by us. It's owned by them. So they get to still control the narrative of how we are portrayed and seen.
I think it starts at the top. You get what I'm saying? It starts with the lead creatives that are the creative directors and the producers, and the brand itself has to make that effort, to hire Black creatives. And I'm not just talking Black females, Black photographers, Black makeup artists, Black everything. They have that choice to do that, and they refuse to do that. And that's the problem I'm coming out with. You know what I'm saying? This is a valid conversation to have. What can we do to change this? Like, we talk about it, but we're not changing anything or demanding these things to happen. Just my take.
Mm-hmm. What begins to happen is a decision is being made at those upper levels. We were talking about this the other day. For example, you watch television and you watch the creative line. If from the top down it's all white, that was the decision that was made.
Mm-hmm.
Just like a decision can be made to use people of color.
Yes, to create that
universe.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, the game is changing.
Mm-hmm.
And because the game is changing, they're starting to see us as a viable product.
Yes.
And that's what is slowly happening.
Mm-hmm.
It's happening with people like Loretta. It's happening when the talent can make a decision and say, you know what, Beyonce says, I want to use Tyler.
Yeah, that was big.
I'm not going to do this, because the white people did that because Richard Gere wouldn't shoot for Vogue unless he had Herb Ritts. And they wasn't checking for Herb Ritts back then. But he made a decision. He said, if you want me, you got to bring my boy on. And our Black incredible. People, our black talents who have that power need to invoke that power, because that's when the changes become.
I think it's happening though.
No, slowly.
We did a shoot what, 4 or 5 days ago, and we met with a lot of celebrity talent, and at the end they all were like, all right, we got to come together. And a lot of them were advocates, especially he spoke about the Black experience, and they were advocates for putting us on in these positions, and a lot of them were either famous actors or behind the scenes top dogs
that can make these decisions.
And he's like, okay, I got to put you on because
they realize, oh my God, you do this supposedly quality of work,
yes,
which is which is really a code word for white people,
work.
white work. That's what that really boils down to. And it's like, oh my God, a person of color, you guys are really producing this stuff out here. And I'm like, there's a whole lot of us.
So now it's like, I got to put you on.
And we've been doing it. We've been doing that.
We've been doing it for hundreds of years.
Yes.
So.
Well, I always say this. I'm happy that they're finally, I'm happy that the spotlight is on us now. I'm happy that the spotlight is on women now. I'm happy that the spotlight is on women of color. We all understand what they did, but what we're doing now matters more than anything. And I give it up to women of color. Y'all knocking out of the park. Y'all are
kicking ass.
Directors, photographers, all across the board. It's so refreshing.
Cinematographers
kicking ass. And when I say you become so proud to see not only Black women but women doing their thing, and it's like, yes, this is a perspective we haven't heard or saw in a long ever shit. Exactly. And it's so refreshing to see it, and it's like, let's do it. I'm excited about the changes. I'm excited about what's to come. I'm excited about seeing all of you guys work. I'm excited to see Taurus shoot a commercial job. I can't wait. I think it's gonna be
excited
phenomenal.
about you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hey, I'm excited about everything. I think
exactly.
Black Lives Matter is changing people's perspective and being more aware, and I think that's going to prompt some more changes in our industry and all across the board. But definitely what we're talking about is the industry. I think it's going to change.
Yes.
How fast? I don't know, but at least they're aware of it. And that's all that matters to me.
I think it's
right. And there's no longer an excuse as to not being able to find Black talent in any career. I mean, it should not have been an excuse, period. But it for damn sure it shouldn't be one now. I mean, there's an entire list, and I don't know if you all are on it. I can share it later, but there's an entire list of 600 plus photographers on that one list going around to different editors. So again, I mean, the talent is here, is there, and it's everywhere. And now that we all have like this hyper focus on us, that I mean, we've always been doing the work. So we always hear the statement of if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. We've already been ready, always been ready. Yeah.
And what's interesting is you guys have to understand, and I want you to think about it. And I thought about it long before. A lot of industries that we touch, we kind of dominate. We do really well. Black people do really well in any industry. We learn, we adapt really well. So it's a little bit frightening to let somebody else in, because in their mind, we're going to take over. Like we took over basketball, like we took over like football,
we
like
took over the arts.
The arts. You motherfuckers take over. And so that's the reason why that I get it. But at the end of the day, we can all work together, we can all make money together, and we can all we all flourish together. And I think I'm more happy about that than anything. But you guys have to understand, and we have a power, and it's very, very scary, and it's to other people who don't know. We are very, very, very amazing people. So
think about it like this too. I remember when MTV first happened. I might not look as old as I am, but I remember when MTV first happened. And before Michael Jackson did the Thriller album, they wouldn't play nobody Black. There was no Black artist before Michael Jackson. And it was because the label got behind Michael Jackson and said, well, MTV, if you don't play his videos, we're going to pull all of our artists. And CBS Records, Sony, that's a lot of artists to not be able to rotate on MTV. And once they started playing Michael Jackson, then here comes BET, because Black people had been doing videos before white people were doing them, and they wasn't playing the videos. And so now MTV got boring because all the white artists was doing the exact same thing. They were the long hair band. They had the bikini hoe in the background with the car, spraying her with water, all that bullshit. And they was doing it. And people stopped watching MTV and started watching BET. So that's when MTV started playing other Black artists, because they was losing the viewership to BET because those artists, Black artists, weren't trying to do the same thing the next artist was doing. So you would get all these different ideas and videos. And so like with photography, with all of us coming in and all of us having a totally different point of view from each other, it really does make, like Dallas and Day was saying, they're scared to let us come in and take over, because once they started playing us, then here comes Yo MTV Raps playing the rap stars and da da da. Nobody was checking for MTV to watch a hair band.
When you go black, you don't go back.
Shut up. But I'm just gonna let you know, Bikini O is definitely in my new lingo.
When I go to the agency, I'll just say I would like a blonde bikini hoe for my next music video.
I don't think that's going to yield you the results.
I need to know the proper vernacular when I book the model. I don't want an editorial model. I don't want a commercial model. I want a bikini hoe. Got it. Thank you for that one.
Yeah. Okay. So, you guys, let's talk about, because I know these are some questions that people, I'm going to kind of ask some questions that we all know, of course, but people watching might be curious about, and so forth. So, and anyone can answer these, just, answer it if you know it, if you want to answer it, etc. So, let's see. One is going to be, so, as commercial photographers and our clients, they contact us and they're wanting quotes, etc. And they're contacting other photographers as well, and they're wanting quotes from them. So my question, or this question, is, how do you approach bidding for jobs?
I'll jump out there and talk about it. I think with me, I asked the ultimate question, like, do you have a budget? I think that's the key that people try to shy away from. They're scared to answer that, because if they feel like they answer that question to a client, they're going to lose their client. And me, that's the first thing I'm going to ask, is like, do you have a budget? And that way I can figure out if I need to refer you to a photographer, because you may be saying below the budget I'm willing to do, or if the budget is something that I can do it at. So that should be the first thing that you inquire about. Then go through your probing question just to figure out, like, are you the proper fit? Because I feel like when it comes to clients, you have to go through like a dating process to kind of figure out, are they a perfect client for you? Because I'm a firm believer that every dollar that comes your way is not a good dollar for you. So you have to figure out what works for you and what doesn't.
Yeah, I agree with that totally. I've had potential clients who just did not fit what I was trying to do, and they couldn't figure out why I turned down the money. And especially in the commercial space, what you do, what clients you take, is a big reflection on the clients you're going to get in the future. So if you're shooting things that are not aligned with what you do, you're just going to shoot yourself in the foot for later anyway. So I'm with you, like making sure that that client does fit your aesthetic before you take that job.
Question. What do you mean by that? That last part when you said which, if it doesn't align with what you're doing, something. I don't. What do you mean?
Okay, so like in the commercial space, like even when I shot retail, I never shot babies, and so like I had commercial clients who were like baby-driven brands. I wouldn't shoot because I don't shoot babies. So I feel like if I did take that job, I feel like, one, it's not conducive to what I do, and I wouldn't be the best fit for that job. That's what I mean.
Oh, I agree. Yes, sorry.
I think, of course you have your budget, but also considering the smaller parts of your commercial project as well. So of course there's your creative fee. There's also the possibility of licensing your photos. There's also the makeup artist, there's the digital tech, there's all these other little pieces that sometimes we don't consider. So even though we may have this, whatever this mysterious budget is, we're possibly not considering all of the other parts that come with it. most importantly, your time. The conversation right now in the editorial side. So let me take a step back. I primarily shoot editorial in the sense of news. So a lot of times that I work with people such as New York Times and USA Today, you have to think about if you're going to be able to license your photos or not. And also making sure you have the proper documentation from the people that you're photographing to ensure that you won't, potentially be sued for using their likeness in a photo as well. So the contracts, the releases, again, just those smaller parts that deal with the commercial world, I think are often left out, and also often not taught. You don't know where to seek that information from. Fortunately, I've had, mentors and gone to classes, and I'm grateful for that. But for the rest of us, or, who's ever listening in, some of the stuff is trial by error. So we can talk about commercial work in a very broad sense, but also understand that this information that we have, some of us learned on our own. Some of us may have gone to workshops. Some of us, may have just gone to YouTube University to learn these things, and we're still learning these things. Quite honestly, I'm still learning, and I can't express enough that licensing, if you're thinking the long game, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you're going to have 1 or 2 or 10 or several images that you can license for life and make money off of that for the rest of your life. So being mindful of, just like what Stevie just said, if you don't photograph a certain thing, and that's fine. But if you have a certain style or a certain category that you photograph, and for sure that you could possibly be selling that image for a long time, think about the long game. I know we're talking about budget right now, talking about the commercial world, but I feel like those are the things that you have to think about when you are not only thinking of your creative fee, but also thinking about your longevity as a photographer, and definitely as a business. And I hope I made sense throughout saying all of that.
You did make sense, actually.
Can I say one thing? I'm sorry. Can I say one thing?
No, you go first and then I'll go.
I'm sorry. I'm going to break down. A lot of people don't understand what licensing is. And a lot of people throw it around, and I want to break it down really, really simple. You take a photograph. Let's say, for example, a company hired you to shoot this photograph. Okay? And you shot it for a makeup line. That company can ask you, can they buy the photo outright, or can they use it for X amount of years? That's when licensing comes in. So you say, for the next 5 years, for $5,000, you can use this photo. After that time is up, they can either renew the license or the license goes back to you. What happens is another beauty company comes along who can't afford to work with you, but they want to buy semi images. You can now take that same photo and we license it out because it's no longer connected to the original brand. So that's how licensing works. And like she was saying, the money can continue and continue and continue, and you only shot it once.
Like if you go to Walmart, this is a serious story. If you go to a Walmart, in the, I think, skincare aisle, there's a face mask photo. It's the same photo as the face mask, the same photo as the face wash. These are different companies, and like literally I seen somebody put them all together. It's the same exact photo, but they licensed it to different companies, and I can pretty much guess that the licensing ran out for this company and is also being used for this company, and it's all the same brand. So that's another way of income. Basically, you can live off that depending on how long,
and how well you worked your contract.
Absolutely. So yeah, that
was it. I'm sorry, Taylor, go on.
Okay, I was just going to touch on what Michael Lopez Bond is talking about in the comments, because I was going to talk about that earlier anyways. I didn't want to cut Lindsay off, but he's asking about the idea of straight up asking for a budget, which is what Stevie, I think that was you, Stevie. I'm sorry if it was not you, but I think that's what you had brought up, was just straight up asking for a budget. Like, hey, what's your budget? Or maybe it was Antonio. I'm not sure. But I like to do that too. And the reason that I like to straight up ask a budget is because a lot of the brands that I work with are very, very young. They're very, very young, and a lot of their funding is coming straight out of pocket, and they're still kind of figuring out exactly what they want to do and exactly how they want to navigate all of these different shoots because they don't have a ton of experience. So when I ask exactly what their budget is, I can leverage that against what my rates are and what we're going to be able to afford in terms of props. And if we need to buy more things, if we need to rent gear, if we need to travel, all of these different things that I have significant amount of experience in. I'm both, trained professionally. I've been working, in retail and in retail merchandising product development for quite some time. I went to school for a lot of this, and I have real world practical experience in terms of running a business. So I'm a lot more experienced in a lot of the brands that I work with. And I think that they end up really appreciating that insight. Now, obviously, you have to approach it in a way that doesn't insult them, right? But asking them in one way or another, hey, what are we feasibly able to accomplish with the amount of money that you're able to put into this shoot, is a really good snippet of information to have when you're building that rapport with the client, because they really may not know what you're actually able to do. They're often on the outside looking in. If this is a cosmetics company, and this is maybe only their third or fourth shoot, especially if you're working with these smaller brands, they may not know. And say this is the shoot where they've decided to level up. If they're working with small time photographers and then they decide to go and hire somebody of a higher caliber, they do not know that this shoot may be 6-7 times more expensive than what they're used to. So it's good to just kind of set that table, within that first meeting, or maybe the second meeting, after, first or second touch base, and just get them to understand from the jump, hey, this is what we're looking at, and this is what I'm able to do, and this is what you're able to do, and this is what we're able to accomplish within this budget. And that way, if you need to book them, book a deposit and then allow them more time to accumulate more funds, or do a smaller shoot, and then they can start to accumulate more funds based on the shoot that you were able to do. They can start to, accrue some more capital based on the outcome from the shoot that you were able to do. It gets them thinking, it gets their gears turning, so that they're a little bit more prepared for the work that's going to come to them. So, it may not be super conducive to just flat out be like, hey, what's your budget? Because it may look a little money grubbing, right? Like, there's obviously more euphemistic ways to phrase things, but at the same time, you have to set the table. You can't just go into things blind. If they have no money, then they have no money. Like, what are you supposed to do? So I know that it probably is a little insulting, and obviously there are better ways to phrase things, and that comes down to your client experience and how well you're able to engage with people. That's a skill in and of itself, but it's still really conducive to a good outcome, that exactly how much your client is working with, and if they have a proper budget to go off of.
I think for me, it's a little bit different when it comes down to asking what's your budget, because it's business. You don't go to a store and sit down and eat and not have any money in your pocket. So for me, businessman to businessman or businesswoman, I'm usually like, okay, what are you looking for? Okay, what's the budget for the project? And it's not offensive if you understand. If business speak business, you understand I'm here to spend some money some way, some shape, some form. And I don't like I'm not the best person when it comes down to money, but I don't like to tiptoe about it. I usually get to look. You're gonna flinch if you tell me what you want, and if you want a lot, if you flinch at my numbers, it's okay. We're gonna make it work, but it has to be a budget for this project. You can't come to me. We can't discuss business and not discuss money. It's just as important as your product.
But the funny thing becomes, I like what Taylor said and what Antonio said. I don't lead with budget. I do lead with what are you looking for?
Yes.
Because at that point, once I know what you want, I already have a number in my head. And if we're going to talk about these numbers, once I say, for example, you give me this rundown of what you want, and in my head I say that's going to cost you $7,000. And then I ask what you want. And then when I go, what is your budget? If she says $200, we're not even in the same ballpark.
Yeah.
There's nothing for us to really discuss. I can't bring your dream to fruition when we're not even in the same ratio of money. So sometimes it's always asking what they want first before you ask them what their budget, because
Absolutely.
You can understand how you're going to play your game plan before you understand their game plan.
I agree.
You're going to go to the store, I'm going to buy a Gucci coat. You already know when I buy this Gucci coat, it's going to be a particular price range. So you already walk into the store knowing I'm going to spend X amount of money for what I'm going to buy. You don't walk into the store saying, I think since I got $20, let me go check out this Gucci coat.
Yeah,
we just don't work that way.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we shouldn't be afraid to ask our worth.
Yes.
Because that's one of the biggest problems that we have as photographers. And I can't speak for photographers of Caucasian photographers, but I'm always constantly asking, how do you create your budget or how do you create your pricing? And a lot of times people are pricing technical, meaning they do a cost of business kind of pricing. And, you know, it's going to cost me this much money to rent the studio. It's going to cost me this much money to get the car. It's going to cost me this much money to get the camera equipment. And here's the number. But what we don't calculate in that price sometimes is our experience and our worth. And if you don't know your worth, you don't really know your rate. So bear that in mind when you guys are out there trying to get these numbers up, because people aren't paying for your photography because we can all do the job. Everyone has a camera. They're paying for your experience and they're paying to have a good experience and a good, viable deliverable.
Well, I also kind of treat it like how you go to a fine dining restaurant that has a menu with no prices on it. If you gotta ask the price, then this was the wrong place to come to eat. Mm-hmm. So, you know, when I know with me, I tell people, if you price shopping, I'm not that person. Don't come here. Because you're coming here because of what I bring to the table specifically, and you should be ready to pay what I'm asking. If not, then go price shopping, and when you get finished fucking off, holler at me. You know, like, because you know, because that's how you do it. You got to understand what you bring to the table and stand by it. You know, and as long as you're getting what you want out of it, that's good. But if you got to sit here and I'm gonna come back to you after I get through talking to somebody else. Well, you're not coming to me for what I bring to the table. You're coming for technical. You're coming for somebody that can function as a photographer. That's not what you're coming to me for. You're basically coming to me for what I visually bring to the table. And you're coming because you like my aesthetic, and that's what you want to apply to your brand, your image, or whatever. Yes. If not, you're not going to treat me like anybody can do my job.
Yes.
Nobody can be Taurus. So you got to be ready to pay what Taurus asks for. Nobody can be Loretta. You got to be ready to ask for Loretta's price. It comes with Loretta. You know, you can't get Susie Jackson and Loretta and be comparing prices, because it's not going to be the same, because she's bringing something totally different to the table than what Susie is. And
I gotta see Susie's work first.
No, it's not saying that Susie isn't valid, but they're different. You know, Popeyes, KFC, they both make fried chicken, but their chicken is totally different. So are their prices. So if you price shopping, you might want to go to KFC because their prices are cheaper. But just know the chicken is not going to taste like Popeyes. And when you get finished eating KFC and you still want that Popeyes spice, you still got to come to Popeyes to get. You get what I'm saying?
I got it.
I totally agree. I
agree with Taylor and Dallas. The fact that you can, you know, ask exactly what they're
I'm hungry now.
Asking the client exactly what they need and then go from there. I'm the second email girl. By second email, I'm asking about that budget. Like, because in the past, I have dealt with clients that didn't come up with the same budget that I had in hand. You know, this is my fee and they're offering me $300. I've wasted an hour talking to you. So I may not be that, you know, there's plenty of pizzerias everywhere. And you have the ability to go to either one of them. But I'm going to stop you here and not waste my time or your time if that is your budget. You know what I'm saying? Yep. So now it's like the second email. It may even be the first one in the second paragraph.
Mine is usually 3 emails or 3. There's usually I can always tell if I'm going to book a client because it usually comes in about 3 questions. It starts with what you want, how much it's going to cost, when can I book? Once we get past that, I realize they're just wasting my time, and that just comes from experience. And it's like, you're not going to book. Oh, are you gonna supply hair and makeup? Yes, I can do that within the budget. And they go, what does it look like? You've seen my work.
Yeah.
Can you get makeup artists? Yes. What does their work look like? Can you send me their work? You've seen it in my work. So it's like at that point you realize you're playing games with me. And what happens is because we're trying to book this client, so we're wasting an hour and a half that I can be doing something else, and I'm applying that time to you. And a lot of young photographers and new photographers don't realize you need to charge for that. We're going to have budget meetings, and you want to have these meetings, these mood board meetings and creative meetings. I bill you for that. People need to know, like, the big overbroad picture of the budget is one thing. It's those little numbers is where you start making a little bit of money. You want me to do a casting? I'm going to charge you for that. You want me to talk to the agencies? I'm going to charge you for that. You want to have this creative meeting? I'm going to charge you for that. That's all within your pricing.
Yeah.
Because when you go to the doctor for a consult, or you go to the therapist, they're gonna charge you.
All you gotta do is look at the itemized list.
Because they're gonna charge you. They're gonna charge you for that.
It's a part of business.
It's a part of business, and we shouldn't be afraid to handle business because we're artists.
Yeah, no.
Sometimes you got to put the artist on the back burner and bring the business person forward.
That
because
used to be my problem.
That's a lot of problem with a lot of artists. They don't know how to handle the business part because they feel embarrassed. I don't know what to ask. They feel afraid.
Or you're nervous about what the client is thinking.
Or you're so busy worrying about losing a job. Let me say one thing to you guys. You can never lose a job you never had.
Nope.
You lose things by booking it and then it's taken away from you. But if you never secured the job, you never lost the job.
Yeah, it's not yours.
It's not your job.
Not yours.
And also feel comfortable with saying no. I mean, no is a complete sentence. No, I can't do that. Or just simply no. And then we'll see what the counter offer is. But, you know, I mean, right. I mean, you know, as everyone grows, we understand, and forgive me for forgetting who said this earlier, but we understand what our value is. And once you understand that, then the jobs, yes, you, Dallas. Once we understand what our niche is, then we won't take everything that is offered to us, whether that's going to be the project, whether that's going to be the money, whether that's just going to be the opportunity. So, you know, once you feel confident in who you are and your skills, then no becomes, you know, a part of your lexicon, as well as understanding understand that you're going to hear a lot of no's yourself. That doesn't mean that you're not good. That doesn't mean that you're not, you know, worthy. That just wasn't your place at the time. So you're going to hear no on your end, and then it's going to be even more of a gratitude or this great moment when you can say no to somebody, because you can.
Oh, I guess I'll chime in. I have not had luck with just straight up asking what someone's budget is. I mean, honestly, that's kind of not worked for me. So I tend to never really ask, okay, what is your budget? If it is a bigger brand, I have where I'll just place my bid and just put it out there and hope that they come back and say, hey, this is too much, or can you move? I'll start off with the largest.
Does she remind you of Issa Rae?
Bid possible. I'll start off with the largest bid possible. I'll include every possible thing that I need to include in there. I'll ask a couple of questions on what's needed. And then if they come back and they say, okay, well, you know, the budget is this, or can you take certain things off? I'll go from there. Now, if it's a smaller brand, say it's a boutique, a one-person owned boutique or something like that, then I'll just have pricing that I just automatically have for small brands like that I'll send off, and I'll have tiers of it. So this will include a certain amount of, like a lookbook type tier. This will include this many shots. This will include this many, and then they can come back and say what they can do within their budget. If nothing's within their budget, then it's nothing else that can be done. But I usually get crickets in when I started commercial photography, and I would say, hey, is there a budget? Or if I emailed back, hey, what's the budget? I would get a lot of crickets from that. The only time I've ever been able to get anywhere with like a confirmed budget is if I know someone, like if I know the art director and they say, hey, just to let you know, this is how much they're working with. Now, if I have liberty to that, then I'll come in a little bit under, because I know that there's going to be someone that comes in way over that doesn't know what the budget is, and they're automatically going to just get kicked out. So that's just been my experience. I don't typically like to say, ask that question of what the budget is, because then I feel like I'm lowering my standard to, my pricing to that budget. But yeah, I mean, it could work, I guess, and it all depends on who your client is. If it's a huge brand, if you have L'Oreal coming to you, you're not going to say, what's your budget? But if you have a smaller, entrepreneur type of client, then that might be okay.
I'm sorry, I know we had like a designated order, but I wanted to piggyback slightly off of what you were saying. So having worked in customer service for like ever since I was like 16, I've been working in customer service. And what I found really, really works for them is, again, not coming at them straight to the face. Like, there's a lot of euphemistic phrasing that really, really works for people. And so you don't maybe want to say like literally, and I'm not speaking to you, I'm just in general. You don't want to literally say like, what is your budget? Because that might scare them. That term, it scares people, it's scary.
Yeah.
I like to actually hop on a call with people. I have that first email, like Loretta has her first email, you introduce somebody, you're setting a rapport, you're setting the table, you're making them feel good in your presence, right? And then if they're taking maybe a little longer to respond, or if they seem a little tentative, I like to say, hey, you know what? Why don't we hop on a call and chat about it? Why don't we talk about this? And I don't know what it is about my voice, but people seem to really like the way that I phrase things, and they seem to really enjoy listening to me speak. I know that I can be kind of on the nose when I'm actually typing. That's just me. But when I'm able to actually engage with people and talk to them just as a person, they seem to be significantly less tentative about going ahead and forking over their money. So, I mean, that could be a really good approach. I know a lot of people end up asking me like, how do you do it? Like, there's ways to kind of engage with people so that they're a little bit more amenable to booking with you. And I find that actually talking to people on the phone is a really good approach for that.
But I guess my question is, what if you don't have the liberty to say, let's hop on a call? What if you're bidding on a job that a lot of people are bidding on, like more of a commercial assignment? You're not going to be able to say, let's chat about this. They're just going to say, send in your bid, and if we like what we see, we'll get back to you.
I mean, honestly,
so I guess, yeah.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't realize you're still talking. Go ahead.
Oh, well, that's why I said I approach it depending if it's a huge commercial client or if it's just a small, fashion designer or someone that wants a lookbook or just a more entrepreneur type assignment, just one person or, mom and pop, that you probably will be able to hop on a call or be able to email back and forth. But the bigger assignments that I put bids on, there's never going to be an opportunity to say, let's chat. They're just going to say, hey, send us your quote. If we like what we see, we'll let you know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if that's what it is, then
my experience.
I think the more important thing is to guys, when it comes to like blind bids, you can get blind bids all the time. And that's just the norm for the industry I work in. So, if you don't have the skills to price it to be competitive, ask for the help of a producer, seek the help of a producer, and just pay them that 10 to 20% to give you more accurate pricing, because you don't want to lose out on a job for being overpriced, and you don't want to lose out a job for being underpriced, because underpriced is going to kick you out of the ball game forever if you ever underpriced with them. So you have to kind of think strategically with how to go about these blind bids. And the best way to go about it is if you can't figure it out on your own, seek the help of a producer where that has a little bit more experience on it. That way they can get you in the ballpark and have you competitive playing on it. Because like you're saying, you may be giving out a blind bid where you may be off the wall, but it may not come back and say, hey, you're too expensive or you didn't bid enough. They may just take you out of the ballpark altogether. So you have to be very mindful of, how you go about and put your play in the ball game and seek that help. And a lot of times, these producers, they'll charge you a marginal fee of like 10 to 20%, but you just build it on the back end to pay those producers for that advice.
You add it onto your contract. I mean,
right.
That's part of it. That's part of the bid.
I do that all. I make bids for other photographers all the time, and I get a cut. I put myself within their bidding, so I do it all the time. I'm like
put
a
all
low-key
your
agent.
extra work on there.
Yeah,
I put everything.
I like that.
Make a phone call. Okay, that's gonna be this. I even have it a line just for miscellaneous. Whatever that miscellaneous is, there's an amount for that. You know what I'm saying? Like you have to cover your bases.
It could be something as simple as buying paper.
Exactly. That's in there too.
I learned this from like dealing with model agencies. Once I saw a model's
bill.
The bill from the agency, pretty much. I was like, well, damn. If you took a tissue off their desk and wiped your nose, they charge you for that too.
That's like a lawyer.
And so once I learned that people in this industry charge for every damn thing, then I need to be charging for every damn thing too. They're trying to get all the money. They get
you can charge for your gear. I mean, that is the beauty of it. You own it, but you can still charge for it.
All the time.
If you want me to use it, you need to pay something on it because it's probably not paid off anyway. But the point is that you can get paid for it.
Just charge them the same rental fee as you would actually go, rent
Absolutely.
your equipment.
We do it all the time.
All part of it. You're bringing in this equipment. It's yours. They want to use it. You have to pay for it.
Yeah, because
if they went to a rental house, they're going to pay the rental house anyway.
Exactly.
The Loretta Houston rental house.
Going back to Leslie and Taylor's conversation, I also think Antonio, all together, I think, having a producer who, can actually close those contracts, and having great marketing conversations like Taylor, I think all that goes together. For me, I find that being represented to takes all that pressure off of me. So for me, it was about also seeking an agency that can speak for me and can be the front guy for me. It makes a big difference.
So I want to ask you, Loretta, since your agency represented, how did that happen? How did you get that to happen?
I got that off the Sports Illustrated swimsuit.
Nice.
Go, Loretta. We trying to be like you, agency represented.
So before Sports Illustrated, you weren't agency rep.
I was before too.
Okay.
And that was in Atlanta, and I just felt like I didn't get those high-end brands I wanted in Atlanta with that agency. So when I moved to LA, I just kind of cut that cord. Plus, my agency wasn't really like having the connections that I needed in LA. Okay. So after the Sports Illustrated magazine, Tyra hit me up. It was like, now we need to get you signed. And she took the obligation, I gave her a list of agencies that I was interested in. And we kind of narrowed it down. And between me, herself, making phone calls and emails got me signed. So she took the initiative of her platform to help me get signed as well. And that's how that happened, and I think people are more aware that, they need to have more diversity on their board. You get what I'm saying? Across the board. So I'm just very happy about that as well. And my agency is they're one-on-one, I don't want to be that photographer that's only on the board like other modeling agencies where you have models on the board and, you just kind of forget them. My agency actually calls me, texts me, let's get a game plan here. What clients you want to go after, Loretta? We're going to go after them for you. They'll make those phone calls for me. And that's why I love being signed.
That's awesome. So I'm going to let Antoine talk because I think he had something to throw in there on the bidding and so forth. And before because talking about agency representation, that is a question. So I don't want to talk too much on that right now. So everyone can talk on that, but let's finish up on the bidding and how everyone bids for jobs or how everyone approaches bidding.
So I guess my take on it is, I guess we all have websites that we drive people to our sites to, or we get emails or we get phone calls or we get text messages or DMs from clients or individuals pertaining to our budgets. And even though I'm getting it built right now on my page, what I've seen to be successful is when we have those things on our site where it's like, you have on your site for contact or whatever. You say, what is your primary budget? What do you want? Do you want, how many models do you need? Do you need studio? Do you need hair? Do you need makeup? You ask all those questions. And then when that individual emailed you, it's kind of already from that point, you're already asking them kind of what their budget is, just straight from asking them those questions. And then from there, you can kind of curate your response to them and to give that to them. For example, for myself, I get the question a lot. Oh, what's your rate? And again, like everybody else, my response is, well, what is your budget? And I tell them, you kind of have to educate the person because because at the end of the day, some of them don't know. Like I think a few of you all, you have new brands that literally just don't know what the market is for a professional photographer. So they ask, well, what is they ask, well, what is your rate? And you ask them, what is their budget? And they don't know. So I have to kind of educate them to say, well, the reason why I'm asking you for your budget is because you might want 5 models in a shoot for a campaign shoot. And you might not know that you need a studio and hair and makeup and all those things. So what I tend to do is, and for myself, when I edit my pictures, I charge per face in a photo. So if a client comes and says, well, my budget is $1,000, and I might say, okay, well, that might be decent. And I ask them, well, what pertains in that budget of $1,000? And they say, oh, well, I'm going to have 10 models. I already know off the break that client says, and I want 15 edits. So I already know off the break that $1,000 is going to cut you already just by getting your photograph from me editing those individuals. So I kind of have to explain to them, what entails in that budget and a lot of them. So I think at the end of the day, my background is IT. I do IT for a living. That's what I do in a day-to-day job. And I think at the end of the day, it's all about educating the client, whether it's a client or whether it's big brands, just educating them on, why all of us in this group and other photographers are different when it comes to budgeting. It's all about education and it's all about understanding. And but I mean, that's just my whole, because I would say this, I've had clients that'll say, I'll ask them, what is your budget? And they'll say, well, I want to know your rate. And I was like, well, what are you looking for? And they'll tell me what they're looking for. And I'll give them my rate. And I'm like, okay, that's going to cost you $3,000. And then after that, I'll say, well, and I'm a very easygoing person. So I'll work with your budget depending on exactly what you're asking for. If you're asking me to move the world for $50, then you're not going to get me. So I've had clients tell me, well, I'm looking to do all of this stuff and my budget is $50. And I'm like, that's not going to happen. So I think it's all about just educating the individual, the client, the brand, or whoever the person is. So that's just my little take on it.
Yes.
Awesome. I just the way I approach bidding, and I totally forgot what I was about to say. Okay, so the way I approach it is, asking what their budget is. That's not the first thing I ask. I ask a little bit about the project. So I'll say, so let's say a client approaches me, cosmetics company, and they're like, hey, what's your prices? We need some images. That's generally how a conversation is going to start. They're going to say they like your work. They are inquiring about prices. So from there, what I typically do then is ask about what they need, how many images, how many faces or how many products I'm supposed to photograph. And so forth, and how many images do they think they need? Because I found they'll say they need 5, and then when they, looking through the images and picking, then they end up wanting 10, of course. But then at this point, the contract is already written, but there is written in the contract additional images is so much and so much. So yeah, it starts with finding out what they need, and then I will ask about what their budget is. And I'm sure all of you guys are the same. When you ask that, they're like, oh, I don't have a budget. They always have a budget because you always have a budget. And what I like to do is then I start high with my pricing, and I negotiate down. So when I'm bidding, I have a top price, and then I have a low price. I mean, I have my minimum price of what I will do this job for. But I always start high. And sometimes they accept that high price, and sometimes they'll negotiate down. But my bit of advice is start high with your pricing and your negotiations, because you can always, you're going to go back and forth sometimes. Sometimes they're going to be back and forth. They're going to say, oh, well, I can't do 7,000. Turns out my budget is 5,000. And then at that point, if what they're needing is a little bit higher than that $5,000 budget, then you can say, well, this is what I can do for $5,000 for you. Sometimes, yeah. So that's how I approach it. Yeah. Go ahead, Day.
So, one of our beautiful followers asked a question. She said, where are you bidding for jobs? These are answers that she need. So I just wanted to throw that out there to ask everybody, where are you guys bidding your jobs? They want to know. And I told them to ask what they want to know.
I bid, there's like not a website or anything I go to where it says jobs.com. So generally it's the clients coming to me, and where I guess maybe you're trying to ask where do you find those type of clients, because that question I think makes a little bit better sense. But clients, I'm not sure how to, somebody else can maybe jump in, but I don't go to a specific place to bid for clients. They approach me, and then we work on negotiating on a price.
I think with me, I think 90% of my clients are built off relationships I have. I think that's where you're going to get majority of your clients, or for your life of your career, just built off your relationships. So, you have to kind of go back and filter through your past clients you work with and offering new products and new services to them, as well as you have to, do the cold calling and set up coffee and donut dates, just to meet and greet a lot of people. That's the name of the game with, what you're in the service industry. So you have to get out and do a lot of networking, do a lot of handshaking, a lot of, just face-to-face interaction with people, so people can get to know who you are. I feel like a lot of people want to sit behind the computer or behind their phones and try to feel like jobs are just going to fall in their lap, but that's not the case. You have to get out and meet people and shake their hands and build that relationship, because ultimately the relationship is what's going to keep you sustaining within this career.
As well as, just to piggyback off of you, Antonio, with the relationships, you could have a client for life and not have to look for anyone else. And that's the beauty of creating that relationship, because if someone likes you, and let's put your work to the side, how we already know that your work is great, but if the client loves you as a person, you're good. You still have to foster that relationship no matter what. That's not to say you have to kiss their ass or anything. You just need to make sure that you stay in touch, because you can easily be forgotten. But if the relationship is true and if it's, you know, thorough and has like some solid foundation to it, you'll basically have a client for, you know, the rest of your career.
I have a comment. So social media has been extremely positively impactful for my business. I used to get a lot of my jobs when I was actually at school in Tallahassee, go Noles. I used to get a lot of jobs by like crawling the campus, and a lot of my jobs came from, you know, campus organizations. I work with a lot of like fraternities and sororities. I work with like a lot of grad shoots, portrait sessions, that type of thing. But now that I'm looking to expand within the commercial world, I've really found it valuable to establish connections and maintain, you know, a growing network on my social media account. So I don't have a massive account, but I make sure that I'm engaging with people consistently. And it's really brought me a steady stream of individuals who would like to work with me. So even though I may not know somebody directly, I can have people ship me product. And that's what actually has been keeping me going through this whole COVID-19 thing, is that people are actually just shipping me products from different areas of the world. I've gotten in products from New Zealand. I've gotten in products from Europe, because I'm establishing connections in those areas. And so I don't have to actually meet face to face with those people in order to work with them. So I think a lot of people really underestimate how useful social media can be. It's kind of seen like, oh, this is cliche, like, oh, grow your following. But a substantive and comprehensive presence on social media, like, you don't have to have a massive platform, but you do have to have an actual presence, and you should be engaging with people and opening up those networks and sending out tendrils to different parts of the world, because those connections can actually put money into your pocket. And so even though it seems like, oh, you know, it's silly to grow your account, or it's silly to constantly be on social media, being on social media is paying my bills. So I think that it's really important to make sure that you're actually out there engaging and networking, like it's an active thing that you need to do.
I was going to piggyback off of that, Taylor, and say that when before I moved to New York, I used to have my own online magazine, and that helped me reach an audience that I never, in Memphis, like my biggest audience was, you know, in New York and Switzerland. So I was getting like 1 million views a month on my magazine. And back in 2001, that was like crazy, where I wasn't getting no support in Memphis. I could roam the city and be unknown completely, but New Yorkers were really, really following what I was doing. So when I moved to New York, I already had an established, people knew who I was. So when I started going to agencies and reaching out, people were already familiar with my brand of photography and all that kind of stuff. And I remember the first week I was here, I actually went to a dinner with the director of IMG. Bruce Weber was there, Halle Berry stylist. I felt like I shouldn't be here. Like, I was sitting at a table full of all of these people I only saw on television, and they all, one, knew who I was already, and they were downing social media, talking really bad about being on the internet and all that kind of stuff. But I was like, well, if I wasn't on the internet, I wouldn't be sitting here with you guys right now. And so I wanted to ask each of you, because I think about like now in society, the biggest excuse that fashion gives about not having us in their rooms is because they didn't know we exist. So how do you guys feel about that? And what have you done to make people know who you are and where you are? Like, because I don't even have a website. I haven't had a website since 2010.
Well, what I do to make people know I exist, I've started a YouTube channel. I put myself more in front of the camera, because I used to just, you know, take pictures like most of us. We take pictures, we hid behind the camera. That's what we do. But now companies and so forth are hiring you not just on your work, like Dallas mentioned earlier. They're not just hiring you on your work, they're hiring you also on your personality. If they want to spend a day with you, if they want you to be not the face, because you're not the face, but you're the photographer of their brand or that campaign that you're going to photograph at that moment. So I've noticed that. And so last year I was like, okay, well, I'm going to put myself out there and show people my personality. And for me, that has been working, doing YouTube, showing like behind the scenes, showing processes of photo shoots, etc. It is garnering me attention from people that might not have noticed me before. So for me, that is what I have been doing. I have been trying to put myself on the not in the spotlight, but putting myself out there so people can see me, know who Dana Cole is, the face behind the pictures.
You want to do a little?
Hello.
Okay. Sorry. For me, it was my work. The more and more work that I produce, the more and more people check for me. And when I moved to LA, when I was in New York, I didn't have to talk much. So I didn't do a lot of talking because I'm awkward as HE double hockey six. It's the truth. You see me, don't do that.
That's the HEO.
Yeah, I know. I had to think about it. Shut up, don't do that. So what happened is when I moved to LA, they force you to talk. And it forces everybody, whenever they meet you, they always like, oh, hey, what do you do? And it depends on the setting. If I'm in a music setting, I'm like, I'm a producer. If I'm someplace else, I'm a photographer. And when I got to LA, I learned that your name and how you introduce yourself becomes your business card, and how you talk to them. LA is very feeling based, like the normal folks. So they're like, oh, you do photos like my friend. And I'm like, no, let me show you my work. And they're like, oh, okay.
Oh, you're a real photographer.
I got to introduce you to this person. And they handed me off like they like to pass you around, and I like being passed around in business.
He does.
Shut up. Stop disrespecting the kid. So what happened is LA is very I call it the hippie state, because they'll let you do whatever. Like they're like, oh, you work here? Okay, let me introduce to my friend who does this in marketing. Or let me introduce to my friend who does they're a photo producer. So I learned the more and more I spoke, the more and more I put myself out there. I really don't even post on Instagram like I used to. I need to start back, but the more and more I presented my work and spoke or asked my friends for help, because all of my friends randomly became what would you call it? Superstars, and they're all in the industry. So I'm like, look, I need work. What's going on? Who's happening? Oh, you do. Let me introduce you to this person. So mine always is word of mouth. A lot of my business come from word of relationship and word of mouth. A lot of anything I get is usually word of mouth, and people like that I'm just cool and forward, and I get the job done, and I'm fast, and I don't take no shit.
One thing about the California business is everybody wants to meet for coffee. Everybody wants to meet for tea.
Yes.
In New York, you make a phone call, we're moving, we have stuff moving. Here, they want to meet you, they want to feel you out, they want to see if you vibe. So I had to learn to put the New York mentality aside in order to make that happen. A lot of the work we get is through word of mouth. And social media has been in the forefront of that. Since the coronavirus started, it's forced me to say, okay, get off my ass and let these people see you, let them talk to you, because when our photos represent us, people have a perception of who they think we are.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people before meeting me think I'm really, really serious. I'm stuck up or highbrow, because they just look at the work and said, he produces that kind of work, so he must be this way. And then upon meeting me, or like Dana does, like we put ourselves out there, we've done this daily live thing for the past couple of months, it humanized us. Because back in the days, it was all about our work. That's not how it's working today. People want to know who you are, who they're putting their money behind, and who's going to represent them, because it's not just I'm shooting for Revlon. When I shoot for Revlon, I then become an agent for Revlon. So I can't sit up here and talk about my political aspirations or
that too.
or rhetoric online because I'm shooting for Revline, so now I represent them. So we also have to play these games of the professional face that we put online out there, which is really important. So I say that to say this: we have to reach out to people. We have to reach out there so they can see who we are, because right now photographers are rock stars, and the reason why the lesser people are being put on, and lesser, not mean lesser quality work, but lesser experience, is because they're thrusting themselves out there. They're doing the YouTube channels, they're doing the Facebook lives, they're doing all these things. So when
they don't know the old way,
and they don't know the old way
of how it's supposed to be done.
They're constantly in your face, so they become, well, I see a lot of Jane Doe. She must be dope, but yet we're producing better work, but no one knows who we are. So we have to start making ourselves vulnerable to the industry.
When I first came to New York, people had their, like you were saying, preconceived idea of what I was like based off the way my work looked. And so a lot of people thought I was mean, thought I was difficult.
But you are mean.
And no, I'm not. But people thought those things. And I remember I was telling my best friend about it. And she was just like, well, you're so much fun to work with once they meet you or whatever, da da da. And I was just like, well, how do I get them to know that? And so that's when I started doing the videos where I would sit next to the model and we would sit there and talk. And once I started doing that, and the only reason why I was even in the videos in the first place, because once I finally got an A-list girl up in here, she was scared to do the video because she didn't want people to hear her accent or whatnot. And she said the only way she would do it is if I did it with her. And so I didn't want to say no, so I just sat there and did it without thinking about it. And so then I liked our interaction, and people liked the interaction. It gave them a chance to see why people liked working with me. And so then I started booking jobs off of the strength of the videos. Like if you have a budget and you can only afford to work with one person in New York, who do I want to work with? I want to work with the person that they was having fun with, because I want to have that kind of fun too, And so then I started thinking about it like that, and then I just kept doing it, and that helped build on my brand as a photographer here in New York, and it set me apart from everybody else. It set me apart from the white ones, because you didn't know what you was gonna get with them until you show up on set. Because even just like, I don't want to say people was all ugly and shit, didn't want to be in front of no cameras, but I think it was more that people are awkward and they get all in their head about what they're looking like and all that stuff. And I just said, you know what, I can't think about it because I'll get awkward and self-conscious and do all that. So I just started doing that, and that was just an extension of what I was already doing, being online and being a visible presence. Now everybody's doing it. And so now you got to kind of find a new way on it and make yourself set apart. And I always kind of was thinking about it like that. How do I set myself apart from you guys so that people choose me from you? Because we all are talented and we're all capable of producing. So what is it that people are going to pick Dallas or Loretta or me or Antoine or any one of us? Why would they pick us over another one? Because we're all good, And so now, and I started thinking about that, like with modeling, like models that book the job don't book the job because they're the prettiest. That's almost never the case. So you pick the person that you feel the most connection with, that most best represents your brand. And that's how all the team is chosen, pretty much. And not strictly off talent, because then you never have to meet people. You judge just off of what you see,
People like we always say people forget a photo, but they'll always remember the experience. They'll always remember the cool person. Everybody loves the cool person. Everybody loves to greet the cool person, work with the cool person,
hang out with the cool person,
spend money on the cool person,
do
spend
edibles
money
with the cool person.
Shut up. do money. Shut up, you messed me up. Get money with the cool person. So I always say, be the cool person, be the business person, but always be the cool person. That's how I get most of my work.
Because they like the cool person, but they appreciate the business person.
Absolutely. So if you can have a mix between both, that works. That works for me at least. I don't know. That's how it works for me. I'm not super businessman, but I'm cool as fuck all day. Shut up.
Yeah, I am. I'm kind of on. I'll just chime in like what Tyrus is saying. That awkwardness. I always hated like kind of being in front of the camera or putting myself out there. I just recently started embracing that. And luckily now it kind of helped me because a lot of people were saying, "Oh, you're a Black female photographer. Oh, I want to work with you." And before I was just kind of not even having any photos of myself on my website, just being more just like kind of ambiguous, like you book me and then you find out. But now I kind of embrace it a little bit now because I guess it's in to be Black, but in to be a female photographer, and it's working in my advantage. As to when I started off, it wasn't my advantage. I didn't want people to know that, yes, I'm a Black female photographer and work with me. So now I'm embracing it. I have my photo out there. I do a little behind the scenes and people love it. If they don't really say, "Hey, I didn't know, I'm not going to work with you based on that." I haven't gotten any negativity, but I just embracing who I am. And I'm glad that, now, especially with the whole Black Lives Matters movement, that we are getting more recognition. There are some amazing Black photographers. We do exist, and we are worth shooting the covers of Vogue and high fashion magazines.
For me, I used to be a web designer, believe it or not, and developer. So photography is something that I didn't I just kind of stumbled upon it. For me, I get my clients through word of mouth. And that has been pretty much 80% of my jobs. So I'm very happy about that. But I also take advantage of Instagram and other social media platforms to, kind of promote yourself as well. This year, I've decided to go in front of the camera and be more present. I'm turning 50 this year, so I'm just like, fuck it. Fuck it. I have nothing else to lose at this point. And I also want to just kind of educate people, and maybe in return, I'm going to learn things too as well. I've been in this business for 13 years and there's still things to learn. Okay. And I will always be humble and grateful for the knowledge I've received and things that I learned from other people. I don't know. I'm happy. I'm happy.
Awesome. I think you guys had answered that question. So I'm going to ask the next question, and we're probably almost done. But so Loretta, you touched earlier on, everyone, Dallas and Loretta touched earlier on representation. And I know this is a question that a lot of new photographers are interested in, on when you should seek representation, how that works, and so forth. So, yeah.
The way I approach it is how can I say it? They don't really have enough time to look at your portfolio because there are a ton of photographers going after representation, okay? So what I usually do is I put a few snippet photos, my best photos, in the email. Okay, because that at that point, that's something that you can look at real quick. And then at that point, I write an email specifically telling them exactly who I am as a photographer and why I need to be valued. You know what I'm saying? I still go in with a big portfolio book. I am old school, okay? You can I bring an iPad into a meeting too as well, along with my portfolio book. But there's something about holding it in your hands, you know what I'm saying? And feeling it, and it's just beautiful. So, you know, I bring that to the meeting as well. But for me, it's just reaching out, let them know who you are, what you have, put a list of clients that you have worked for in that same email. Because I'm sure they're looking at, we don't want to do all the work. So we want to make sure you're able to bring your 50 and we bring our 50 to kind of make this partnership work. So that's the suggestion I have. Other than that, you know, put everything and anything in that first email, because they just don't have the time.
Can I piggyback on you for a second?
Yeah.
When I have representation in New York, what happens is you have to understand that they have to have the ability to make money off of you. If they can't make any money off of you, you're a waste of time. Exactly. You also have to check to see if you're a good fit with that agency, because there's tons and tons of photographic agencies out there. And if you just start going at them blindly, they realize you're not paying attention to what they do. A couple of times I hit a couple of agencies, they were food agencies. They shot food photography or product photography. So let's say you do have an agency that you like to be represented by. You have to make sure you're a good fit for them. And can you bring something to their table that they don't have? So for example, a lot of us all do beauty. So I wouldn't necessarily go to a agency that has a ton of beauty photographers because you don't stick out. So you got to also be able to say, okay, I can bring this to your company. This is my worth and this is my value. And it's a funny game to play, because what happens is they want to be able to make money off of you, but you want to make money off of them. So it's a funny game. It's like, can we make money off of you? Have you had these clients? And you're like, yes, I have had these clients and I want to come to you to continue making that money. So bear that in mind. Just like when you shoot for modeling agencies, does your work fit with that agency? If it doesn't, you have to tailor your work to say, okay, I can shoot for Ford will look for a completely different photo than IMG. And you have to be able to play those games. Same thing when you decide that you want to be represented. And when you want to be represented, be ready, because again, you become an agent of that company. And are they producing the kind of, are they going to tailor to you? Because everybody wanted to be a Jet Root. That's what that was the vogue. Yeah. That was the vogue of agencies.
I'll tell you a story about that after.
But the agency was so huge that you can get lost in there. You can get lost in the nooks and crannies. So sometimes when you're building yourself, going for the smaller boutique agencies, where you can get what Loretta is getting from the agency, that they cater to you, that they want to build you, they want you to see you success, because the more success you have, the more money they can make. Mm-hmm. So everybody, like being with the record label, everybody wants to be with the big record label, mm-hmm. and the Beyonce album comes out, they're going on the back burner.
You're going to be shelved,
you know, or they're always going to put their prominent artists forward. So you have to bear that in mind. It's a dance and a relationship between you and that agent.
Speaking of Jet Root, I gotta go back to this. So we were going out of town. Where did we go? Did we go
New York?
We went to New York. I'm in New York. I'm excited. I got hit up from an agent and we chopping it up. I'm feeling like big dog. I'm like, look, when I get back on, it wasn't even Monday. It was Monday. I had to hurry up and come back because I had a meeting on Monday with Jet Root. Boy, that letter went out that the business closed down and my feelings were hurt. But it taught me something. It taught me that I was good enough. And I had been searching for an agent for so long, and I kept saying I want it. And when I had the meeting and the agent was talking to me, and he just moved to a different agency. So we still in contact and we still do business together. But he moved from being a representing photographers to makeup artist and hairstylist. So now he does that. But he has introduced me to a lot of great people. Again, relationships and networking. has helped a lot. But yeah, Jeru closed his doors. If I was excited on Saturday, Monday morning, got home.
It was the letters went out. It was all over the news.
It was like everywhere.
I said, "Don't you have a meeting with Jeru?" He's like, "Yeah." I said, "You know
not
they
no
closed
more.
their doors."
Yes, not no more.
Like I knew before he knew.
I was so disappointed and sad because in my mind, oh, it's about to be on. Your boy about to be popping, but yeah, it didn't happen. But again, it's coming. It's coming.
Yeah, it's like what Loretta said and Dallas just said. You know, it's a dancing game. You know, I've been courting this agency now for about a year. Coming here in New York, coming up this August, it's really a growing process back and forth just to see that if you can marry and dance well with this agency. It's not like a one shot and done.
No.
You know, you have to really to make sure that you are a good fit for it. You know, when I first went to them last year in August, they was like, "Hey, we love your beauty work. You have some really great fashion stuff. Let me check out. Do you have any hair?" So I went back and kind of grew my portfolio. So I shooted some hair, went back to them. Then they say, "Hey, do you shoot beauty products?" Now I'm in the process of now adding on beauty products.
That was my journey as well.
Yep.
You know, so it's really, right. So it's really not that where it's just going to be, oh, let me sign to an agency and think, oh, my life's going to be great after that. No, it's going to be a long, drawn out process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let me ask you a question, Antonio. We've all had that same show of, well, can you shoot beauty? Yes, you see it in my book. Can you shoot hair? And you want to go, well, if I can shoot beauty, I can shoot hair. So you shoot the hair. Then they say, can you shoot this? It's like, seriously?
Right.
Are you playing a game with me right now? You playing.
When I was at that dinner table with Bruce Weber and the director of IMG, Bruce Weber told me this. He said the hardest place in the world to get signed is New York.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So don't even focus on trying to get signed to an agency in New York. He said you damn near have to shoot Obama and 10 other major people for them to even pay attention to you. So you even think about somebody like Tyler Mitchell, who shot Beyonce for the cover of Vogue. He wasn't signed to anybody beforehand. And it took Beyonce walking him in, or shooting with Tyra to walk her in. And it wasn't like you was searching for them. And I feel like you shouldn't have to gear your shit to fit the agency, because at the end of the day, it's not about you fitting them. It's about them fitting you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because they're going to be your voice in the industry. They're the ones that are going to be speaking on your behalf to clients. So they have to be saying what you want them to say. And it's not you have to say what the agency wants you to say to get the job. And I always tell people, whenever you bringing in somebody to be your mouthpiece, they have to really be your mouthpiece, so they don't mess up and talk for you wrong. You know,
out in LA, it's oh, sorry, Tyler Mitchell. Before I get to LA story, Tyler Mitchell had a cheat code too, because he actually was interning for a photography agency. So again, it's relationships. He had great relationships. He didn't pop up out of nowhere as we all thought he did. It's really, really about relationships and figuring out where you want to go. I've been doing research like crazy on the proper agent for me. And I had one, like I told you, I had a meeting, came in, and they thought because Day is an Asian name and my face wasn't on anything. So I was in the waiting room, sitting there. Then the what do you call this? Not the assistant. What do you call it? It will be the secretary came to get me. The receptionist came to get me. I walked in, and this white woman, she was just as surprised, like, oh. And so she was like, okay. Got my book, because I have a physical book like everybody else. And she was going through my book, and she was like, wow, you shot these? And I'm like, yeah. So she's like, okay, tell me, what did you do? What exactly did you do in all these photos? And I started telling her everything but the hair and makeup. So she's like, you came with the concepts? Absolutely. You did the lighting? All of it.
Did you do the retouching?
Did you do the retouching? I did the retouching. She's like, wow. And so at the end of my meeting with her, she said to me, okay, I have to say this. I thought you were Asian because of your name.
And you didn't have to say that.
So I said, oh, okay. So you can see the shock when I walked in the door. It was shock.
It could have been because you thought you were so young.
Oh, what you mean? Shut up. I am young. Anyway, so what happened was that feeling was very awkward, and it kind of threw me off the entire thing. But I realized that wasn't the agency for me, and it was cool. And although she liked my work, and we talked afterwards, I was like, this is not, no. It wasn't a good, it wasn't a good meeting.
You saw the things that were going to come.
Yeah, it wasn't a good meeting. I love that she was real, but it was like, nah, we good, bruh. But it was it felt different versus the Jet Rue when he wanted to know everything about me, how long you've been shooting, what inspires you, asking these weird questions that I never would have thought of. Where you see your work going? If you could like just asking me questions of where I want it to be in the future, and brands that I would love to shoot for, brands I would love to work for, down to models I like, model choice, down to lighting, and it was just random stuff. Like
but it wasn't random.
It wasn't random. It just felt like somebody who
cared.
Who cared. Like where are you going? Let's try to talk about your future with the company. And it was a different conversation than I had when I had with this other agency. But I'm gonna find my agent anyway. I just want to tell that story. Go talk. Say something.
So the next question, you guys, is going to be establishing. How did you all establish your working network and teams? So kind of a two-part question. So how do you actually go about expanding your network? And then how do you go about picking your team, like your core team? Because I know we all have like me personally, I know I have a core team of stylists I generally work with. And if I get hired for a job, I will bring in my team as well if I can. Sometimes they have their own team who they want to use, which is then okay, whatever. But if I can pick my team, I'm going to pick the people I work with. So yeah, two-part question. How do you go about picking your team? And then how do you establish a working network with the clients?
In LA, I'm still building my team because I'm fairly new here. So I work with a few makeup artists and a few hairstylists and a few stylists, but finding the ones, my New York people that I met are like, I got like one hairstylist that she does everything, and I stick with her. But makeup artists, I'm still finding the perfect one, because I have one who does you're good at cleaning, but not good at editorial. So it's hard. It's picking and choosing and constantly working with people. I'm a part of. I was luckily, and thank God, I was a part of this this experience with Erica Carr before everything went down. I met, it was like hundreds of makeup artists there, and they were all excited and they knew my work. I felt like, I don't know, I felt like some sort of celebrity, and I reach out to them and I speak to them all the time just about random stuff. They have questions about how to approach photographers or photography work or anything. They usually reach out, and I have built good relationships with makeup artists. So whoever's in LA, I'm usually like, I would love to test. I still test. I still love to work with them and do different things. So I can see their strengths, because I hear what every makeup artist is not an artist. Some people paint by numbers, and it's different when you're in a situation like this guy named Joseph. I met, he's a makeup artist. I didn't know him from dirt, and he came in and we were talking. Immediately he took direction, and he was like, hey, she has a face that can carry this look where I can remove the eyebrows. Can we try that? I know it's different from the mood board, but can we try this? And it was like, okay, let's try it. And from then on, I loved him, because he wasn't just taking orders from me. He was an artist, and we were working together. So it's a constant build of testing and figuring out who works, how they work, what are you good at, what's your strong points, and that's how I build my team. And
well, for me with teams, I like to meet with people first, because if we don't like each other meeting, we definitely aren't going to work well together. And so most people know Taurus got to do everything himself. That's because when I do meet with people, it don't work. Like our vibes aren't even. It's not a balance. Everybody's not coming in to contribute. And so just that whole energy, when they get there, when I've met with people and I remember I met with a stylist, and time I met him, I knew we weren't going to be right. And it was like, maybe it's body shaming or whatever. I was like, oh no, it was to meet my assistant. I was like, ooh, you are way too big to be my assistant for my space. You are gonna, that sounds real fucked up, but that's a real situation. I was like, I need an assistant that can crawl under stuff, get up under stuff, hold the reflector up under here, and you physically can't do that for me. And you laugh, and that's foul. But
and that's how I lost a job being his assistant.
But that was just like real for me, because my space was like 12 by 12. It wasn't that big, and so I really had to take into account of that kind of stuff. He was a nice person, and he probably would have been a cool assistant. Or somebody came in and they was too weird and spacey and strange, and I was just like, nah, you're not going to be a right assistant for me, because you're going to actually make my clients uncomfortable, and that's not going to be a good look. So I've always want to do a sit down, meet with people, come to my space, because you might not be able to work in this space, And so when I sit down with stylists, makeup artists, or whatever, I ask them questions like, well, who are your favorite designers? What kind of stuff do you like? And if we ain't even on the same page of that, then I know we're not going to work well together, because our aesthetics and things are so different. And it's not even a different that's going to contribute to why it's going to be a conflict. And I don't like conflict on set. It's too distracting from my focus on being creative. And so that's kind of how I work with building a team.
I'm sorry. I'm the same way, but I typically don't just look at the body of work of the person who I'm trying to work with. I also look at their track record as far as their professionalism, because I think it's important that piece is just as important as the talent. Because a lot of times you can work with people who are very talented, and you get them on set, and the smallest thing, they're ready to pop off. And it's like, no, that's not what we're doing here. So for me, I like to test with people a little bit longer than normal, because I want to see what it is that, ticks them off, how well they handle, under the pressure and things like that. Because I'm not going to let anybody come in on my team who's going to mess up a job because they don't know how to be professional.
Yes.
Yeah, that's super important. For me, go ahead, Laura.
For me, I just need to know if you're not going to get hurt with your feelings.
Right. That's what I was going to say.
I am very blunt. When it's time for work, this Loretta is gone. Okay. I am trying to fight time. I'm trying to see if you're able to work with me. It's not even me working with you. Can you work with me? Because I know I'm very hard on people. And it's only because I want the best for all of us as a team. Yes. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, that's how I do it. I test one person at a time. And pretty much I'll know within the first hour if we're going to get along together. Mm-hmm. And it's about you reading me. You know what I'm saying? So if I do this, I'm not liking what you're doing. Like, it's this side thing that I do all the time. And, and then I will make suggestions during those times. But pretty much if you could deal with my bluntness and my hardcore personality that comes with, being detailed, then we can work together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just want to caveat. But I'm very much like you, Loretta, actually. I have fun. I love my shoots. I love what I do. But like when we're on set, I'm about business. I'm very serious about what I do. And I have a very particular outcome that I would like to accomplish. And when we're on set, and if you're a new person, if you're a new model, you're a new makeup artist, you're a new nail tech, whatever, when you're here with me, we can joke, we can have fun. But when I have my model in that chair, I need you to be doing her face. When that model's in front of my camera, I need you to not be distracting her and peeking over my shoulder and telling me what to do. I know what to do. So I need people to be able to read my vibe, because usually I'm acting as creative director in my shoots. Now, obviously, if we have a creative director, we can reassess, how we're all engaging with each other, sure, whatever. But at my shoots, it's very important for me to be able to, first of all, be able to make sure that we're all working with each other. And I need for the teammates, the people that I'm testing with, to be amenable and they need to have a good solid head on their shoulders. A lot of people that I work with are younger. A lot of people that I work with don't have a crap ton of experience in the beauty industry. So they see beauty and they want to get like, they want to go glamour. They want to cut crease. They want heavy makeup. They want powder. Like, that's not what we're going to do. You know, we're going to do this. We're going to do it this way because this is how I shoot. And I need the makeup to work with the way that I shoot. So, you know, I do have experience as a makeup artist. I've worked in makeup artistry for about 10 years now. So I know exactly the way that I would like to approach makeup. And I need the makeup artist to be able to work with that with me. You know, I need everybody to be able to put their pride aside and understand that we have a goal in mind. You know, our goal is to get to this particular aesthetic. And we all need to be able to work together to get to that space. And so when I test with people, I actually do a lot of scouting for people. A lot of people do end up approaching me, which is great. I love that because it tells me that they are willing to go after what they want. They're serious about what they want, and they're not afraid of actually like stepping up and going and get what they want. I love that for them. So I love when people approach me, but I also approach a lot of people because I'm not afraid to go and get what I want. So when I talk to somebody, I like to establish a rapport. I really try not to have a first conversation or a first touch base with somebody, you know, a day or two before the shoot, because I'm not able to really get a gauge of who they are as a person. I try to have a good conversation and a few engagements and a few interactions with those individuals well before we even start to even maybe kind of think about having a shoot. So I like to hit somebody up. Hey, you know, what's good? I see that you're up here. You know, I'm right here. I would love to maybe talk, you know, about maybe kind of perhaps working together. And then we can start to have a conversation. I can get a good read of their personality and maybe think about taking it to the next step where we can think about having a test shoot. So I think it's super important, again, like going back to what I was saying before about social media, I think it's super important to go and find people and to open up the opportunity for people to come and find you. But you also have to know that, you know, not everybody's good peoples, and you're not going to work well with everyone, and that's okay. Like, that's okay. You know, you don't have to work well with everybody, but you can establish some good connections and then really build with the people that you mesh well with.
I think part of that is also finding someone who will deal with your studio etiquettes. I am like, cell phones are not even part of the studio. Like, leave that in your purse and don't go for it. And the only smoke break you're gonna have is during lunch break. You know what I'm saying? Like, I am all about that. So I think that's also part of the process too, as well.
I know that whenever I meet with a possible team, people or whatever, I try to talk about stuff that has nothing to do with what we're going to be doing, just to get a gauge of their real life and their real life like personality, because part of it is they'll give you what I call pageant girl answers that they've rehearsed and prepared. And so I try to throw a wrench in that just to kind of get their, you know, a real feeling of them. And that's kind of how I work. And once, because I will never forget, when I was in college, I used to direct fashion shows, and we would do tryouts. I would have like my crew, I was like, do not ask them the rehearsed questions, because they've already come in with I did pageants, I did this, and blah, 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 da, da, da. I said, ask them what they did yesterday, specifically. If they can go with that, these are going to be good people to work with as a team, because this is a whole team situation. The show is the show. It's not each individual as a thing. If one person fucks it up, nobody's going to remember the whole show. All they're going to remember is the fuck up. And so I can think about it like with photo shoots, like all they're going to remember is the final project. The final product, if it's good, then it was a good shoot. And if you got somebody in messing everything up from the behind the scenes, it's going to show in the final product. And do you really want somebody like that? Like, if you want somebody that's loud and extra, or like Loretta was saying with emotional or studio etiquette, and dirty and messy and all of that kind of stuff that plays into it as well, you know. And so I always kind of, when I interview team, I try to make it as casual and relaxed as possible so they can kind of be off their guard with their prepared answers of how they're going to work with me, because they're already coming through the door thinking I'm a certain way. So they're going to have their guard up to respond in a certain way. And so like most people go, oh, I didn't realize he was going to be so casual and relaxed. And it makes them feel, my professionalism is very relaxed and casual. It's not like how Loretta is the total opposite of me in terms of on set. Like I'm not this type of person, but I am in my mind, you know. And, you know, I'm like that in my mind, and I try to give off signals. And people who work with me before, they know my signals right away. I don't really talk that much when I'm on set. Once I start working, I'm not talking a lot. I'm using sign language, so to say, and they know it, or they catch on to it really fast. You know, they catch on to that really quick, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. I think
what I like to do is I have two types of artists I work with. I work with a makeup artist, a stylist, or a hairstylist, but then I like to work with what I call elevated artists, who we all come together to get an image as a complete whole. So what would happen is, it's my job to capture everything. It's everybody else's job to catch the things I can't catch. But sometimes what happens is all my people have got to be team players.
Yes.
Because the only diva in the room is the camera and the final photograph. So what begins to happen is, if I work with a makeup artist and they just paint the face and they sit down, I'm never working with that person again. They have to be, and that makeup artist has got to look at hair, that makeup artist has got to look at clothes, that makeup artist has got to look at everything, because I want everybody's point of view when I get that image.
Because it affects it.
It affects the image. So what happens is, that's what I mean. I want everybody to be an elevated artist on my set. Just because you do the hair doesn't mean you can't say, look at that lip, or something's off, or can you fix that belt because it looks odd? Because,
or ask a question, more like asking, like, do you think that I should do X, Y, and Z because that belt looks this way?
Exactly. So they become a little bit more conscious overall on the final image, as opposed to what I just did my job, so I'm going to sit down.
Remember the makeup artist who took the hair and just pushed it. And it was like,
we had a makeup artist. So we in time. So, you know, you have the makeup artist and the hair working at the same time. The makeup artist was so self-centered that as the makeup artist, as the hairstylist doing the hair, the makeup artist goes,
yeah, and
I'm like,
yeah, it was like, whoa.
Did you just see what you just did? It's like fuck what she just did. Yeah. And it's like, that's what I mean, that person wasn't elevated, so I never work with that person again.
Yeah.
So I need my team players to be able to work well with others, because I have different crews or different types of people that I know won't work together because of their energy, but they produce good work. So I will not have makeup artist A working with hairstylist B. They're not going to gel. But I'm going to get a good makeup artist to work with that hairstylist for other shoots. So have to bear that in mind.
So what I was going to say was that my personality, I think Dallas said it a while back, you know, when people see my work, they kind of get this feeling that I'm an unapproachable person. And I'm actually the complete opposite. So I'm a very easygoing person. So when I book my team, or I get my team together, my core team, I think my thing is this: if you can't take a joke, if you don't have a very open personality, then for me, I can't work with you. And the crazy part is, I've done shoots with people, and it's gonna sound really, really bad what I'm about to say. But I've done shoots with individuals, makeup artists, hairstylists, or anything. If I'm in the zone, I'm in the shoot, and if we don't connect at all on the shoot, I've had makeup artists, I've had stylists come to me at events, and they're like, "Hey, Antoine, remember me to shoot together?" I'm like, I don't know you. Who are you? And I'm like, And then I'm like, oh, and they're like, yeah, we did a shoot together. I did this shoot. And I'm like, I don't, because that person's personality was so, it wasn't there that it didn't capture me. So honestly, like, and this is my honest truth. If your personality can't capture me, then for me, I feel like your work can't capture me. And I know that might seem very bad to say, but for me, it's like, I think somebody said before, for me,
that's your truth.
Yeah, I mean, for me, your personality stands out first for me, it stands out more than your work does. Because if your work is amazing, if you're an amazing person, your work's gonna be amazing. That's just my personality and my belief. And so now I have to start being a little bit more,
like yours.
more understanding and knowing the people I work with. But my core team is really, really tight. Everything from my makeup artist. My wife, she has her own swimwear line, but she actually assists me on a lot of my shoots. So when photographers ask me, can they be my assistant? I'm like, I already have one. So it's like, and she knows me and she knows my personality and she knows how I work. But it's really, my core is really, really, really tight. To the point where it's kind of bad because I should be giving more people opportunities to experience, but so I'm going to be better. I feel like I'm going to do better at that. But my core is like real tight.
Awesome. Okay, you guys, so we're probably going to wrap this up soon. So this is going to be my last question, and then we're going to do a Q&A, and then that will be it for today. Thank you guys for tuning in with us thus far. So my last question is to the rest of you talented photographers here. What is one piece of advice that you would give to a photographer who wants to start out in commercial photography right now?
To start off in commercial photography right now.
Commercial or editorial, but they kind of play with each other a little bit.
I would say shoot more and start to develop your voice. Nobody starts off knowing exactly who they are. The more and more you shoot, the more and more you start to develop your voice, the more and more you start to develop your style. And if we're going to go commercially, look at what's working and aim for the stars. So like, if you know that Target shoots away, understand what the markets are. Target shoot commercially, they shoot this sort of style, try to shoot that way. Don't try to bring dark photography to Target because you're completely
I'm going to try to change the game.
Yeah, don't try to reinvent the wheel. Understand that these rules have been here before you started, before I've started. They have a standard. A lot of time these jobs want to know that you understand their mission statement and what they stand for. So you have to understand to shoot that way. Be nice always. Build relationships. Everybody is worth something. Don't treat people like don't treat people like shit.
She said one thing.
I'm sorry. This is all in a one thing. This is the date thing. Don't treat people like shit. Like, they'll always remember that, and that person that you treated like shit tomorrow will be on top, and on top of that is good karma to be good. That's it. That's all I got.
I guess I would say, pretty much, have thick skin. This is a very vicious industry. You can think you got great work, and take it into someone that'll rip it apart on you, and you gotta better check that ego and leave it behind, because this community, even though it's a big community, it's still a very small community, and you don't want to get that ego, in a place where no one wants to work with you, and this industry being so vicious, it'll eat you up and spit you out so fast, you can't figure out what happened to you. So just be mindful of it and have a thick skin, but also be mindful in that take the ego that you have in the artistry out of it and be the business person and learn to sell your work every time you go out without your ego involved.
That was dope.
Yeah.
Bravo.
Well, I wanted to say, the phrase that I always use is that your work and your being in this industry, you have to look at it as a marathon and not a sprint, because there's really no finish line. Like you constantly have to look at your journey in this industry as a progression. Like you can't be like, oh, I've reached the top and then just stop trying or stop doing or stop learning. You have to constantly be learning things and constantly be pushing yourself and constantly be building up your ability. So a lot of people become super disenchanted with their experience in this industry because they feel like they've hit a wall, or they feel like, you know, things aren't going their way, and then that they're not progressing as quickly as they would like to progress. And, you know, I always ask people, you know, have you put in your figurative 10,000 hours? Have you actually put in the work to get to where you want to be? And if you think that you've put in the work, have you put in the work in the way that's actually conducive to your progress? Because a lot of people think that they're doing something and it's not actually a useful method. So I'm constantly telling people to, you know, be introspective and to not be so hard on yourself. You know, I understand we're artists and we're very sensitive about what we're doing, but at the end of the day, you have to be able to step outside yourself and be like, okay, you know, what am I doing? How am I doing it? Is it actually conducive to my growth? And I have to understand, like, hey, you know, I'm an artist. I'm very sensitive about my work. I really care about what I'm doing, but, you know, I'm also learning, and that's okay. And if something isn't working, I switch it up and I try a new thing. And that's a valid aspect of my growth, and that's something that's valuable for me. So I just really try to impress upon, especially, you know, the baby photographers and the little babies try to come in, that you have to look at this as a journey. It's not just like, oh, you know, I'm going to shoot this thing and I'm going to be here. Like, no, that's not how it works. That's not realistic. You know, some people that does work for them, but in the greater scheme of things, that's not realistic. You have to look at this as a journey and not just like a one-off one-time sprint.
I would say decide what it is that you want to shoot, because there's many aspects of commercial photography, and put that in your portfolio and be consistent and just shoot as much as possible and make a body of work of what you would like to have, the jobs that you want to book. So whatever it is that you want to book, if you want to shoot for Target, for beauty brands, put that in your portfolio. And just be consistent and have a strong portfolio. And once you get that, just start to send out marketing campaigns and mailers and things like that, so you can get your name out there, because that is what's going to put you in front of exactly who you want to be shooting for.
I would say, and this is what I tell a lot of photographers that I mentor, is the best advice I can give is learn your craft. You know, whether it's camera, retouching, whatever it is that you do. You know, find what your thing is that you enjoy doing, whether it's landscape, whether it's beauty, whether it's whatever it is. Find it, find your corner, and freak the hell out of it, and be the best artist in that corner that you can be. I mean, I feel like when people try to be the jack of all trades and the master of none, that's where people usually fall and not be successful, because they're trying to do everything. So I always tell people, photographers that are starting out, you know, just find your corner, find that corner, and just be amazing at that corner. So that way, when somebody does come and find you in that corner, they're going to see your work and it's going to be a masterpiece, and they're going to love what you do because you've basically have been in that corner working at your craft for however long you've been doing it. And then I think everything else will kind of like follow. Everything else will come to pass. But if you try to be a master at the whole building, it, for me, is too much. But that's just, you know, is my opinion.
Okay, I got two. The first one is piggybacking off Antoine, is know your stuff. So like when I was in college, I initially went to school to be a designer. So I took all these like sewing classes, fiber classes, texture classes, textiles, all this stuff. And I just applied what I learned from that to photography. So I have a clear understanding of fabrics, how fabrics work, what they work against, if they're waterproof, all that stuff. So my technique in terms of shooting fashion, I have a very good understanding of fashion. And when I look at an outfit, I know how to make it sing, you know? So my mama taught me that. She was like, know your stuff and nobody can get over on you when you know what you're doing, like you really know. And so that was one. And the other one is treat people like the way you want them to treat you, period. Like when you're working on a set, you treat everybody like the way you would want them to treat you. And then you won't really have problems. And when you treat online, respond to people like the way you would want them to respond to you. And you won't have a conflict, you won't have drama, you won't have none of that stuff. And it's just, if you want people to be nice, then you be nice. And that's very important, because that's like Dallas was saying earlier, people will remember how you make them feel more so than anything else. Mm-hmm. So be nice, treat people like the way you want them to treat you, and then know your stuff.
I got one. I think it's important for people to understand that they need to chart their own path. And you stop using other people's success, especially on social media, as the baseline to determine if you're successful or not. I think a lot of times we all get caught up in the sauce, and we look at other people's work and we look at their journey and we try to compare, and sometimes even put ourselves down because we say, well, we're not on that level, but we don't understand what that person did to get to that level. We don't understand the journey that they took to get to that level. So I always tell people it's important to kind of like have tunnel vision, focus on your individual goals, chart your own path, and kind of just focus on your success and stop comparing yours to somebody else's.
Yeah. Yeah, I think all of you guys went. So my bit of advice is basically all of you guys already pretty much covered it. But yeah, try to not be a jack of all trades. Someone mentioned that earlier. Find your niche. It took me a while to do that. So if I was a new photographer, I would want to hear this. Find what you really love to shoot and focus on that. Because if you start trying to shoot everything, you're going to burn yourself out, and that's going to suck. I think probably a few of us or all of us have burnt ourselves out at one point trying to photograph everything, and trying to figure out what we really love to shoot. So figure out what you love to shoot, make a portfolio of it. And yeah, basically I agree with what everyone else said. I can't really say anything new. So we are going to answer.
I got one thing to say, and I'll give it to you. Take light as light.
Oh, really? Really?
That was it.
Shameless
For
plug.
me,
That's unashamed plug there.
for me,
okay.
For me, is just being authentic, authentically you. And I think you will attract, because that is 50% of who you are when clients see you. It's not just also based on your work, but just your personality and how well they'll get along with you. And so that is my suggestion, and just don't imitate, Be who you are, what you love, what you love to do or shoot, and it'll come. It will come. That's all.
All right. Well, thank you, fellow commercial photographers here, for taking the time to do this. So now we are going to answer some of your questions that you guys are asking now. And if you haven't asked your question yet, just feel free to ask it in the chat. So you guys, I'm just going to go over some of these questions here, and any of you guys can chime in and ask it. If you have a specific question for a specific person with your question, you can just put their name. But if not, I'm just going to answer these questions, and whoever can answer them, okay? Let's see. Does anyone on the panel have any tips or suggestions for boudoir photography? Yeah.
Don't be a creep.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're a guy, don't be a creep. That's
Wait, girls can be creeps too. Don't listen.
No. It's just guys. It's just guys. No.
Not with some of the questions I be getting on my photos.
And I'm gonna scroll up a little bit more because I feel like I went down too far. 1 second, you guys. Okay, so here was one question. What is the advantage of being signed, and what is a disadvantage of being signed? So maybe Loretta or anyone can answer this. So
the advantage is that you have a front man that is going to put you out there in their advanced network that they have, their Rolodex of clients and brands. I feel that a lot of us that don't have agencies to represent us, we are limited in our network to a certain degree. The disadvantage that I have is where you just get lost in it, meaning that you're there with 100 other photographers and you're just lost. They're not taking the time to mold you to what they want, mold you to what their clients want. So that is a disadvantage. The other thing is just looking at the contracts they present to you, because sometimes those contracts will have stipulations about maybe they want a whole list of your clients, which I'm very funny about that. Because if I walk away, are you going to go after my clients now? Sometimes also those contracts will be, for a 3-year contract to stay with their agency, despite how much money you make or not. Those are things that, photographers really need to look at when they are looking for agencies.
Also, I would say be mindful of that agency fee. That 20% adds up really quick.
Oh yeah.
And not only that, how you get paid, because sometimes you be sitting for a check for 9 months.
Especially with the
So understand that if the plus of being with an agency is they will plug to the bigger clients that you don't have direct access to.
Yeah. Exactly.
You have a network.
So what happens is people don't know there's something in the industry called campaign week. And campaign week means everybody is looking for that new work for the following year. So your agencies will go after the art buyers and the ad agencies that you may not have access to put your book out in front of them. So that's one of the pluses of it. A minus is, like Loretta was saying, you have to read the contract, because sometimes you can sign a contract and they say you can't work unless for us.
Or you can't work for another competing company.
You can't work for competing companies. You can't do certain things, just like a singing artist. They have control over that stuff. So you have to be careful, because the agency is going to try to make as much money as they can off of you.
Yeah.
So bear that in mind.
So I want to be signed, period.
Okay. I'll sign you.
No, not to you.
Okay. Thank you.
I think with newer photographers, they think, okay, well, I shoot really good, but now I need to get signed because then that's going to bring in more jobs. And what you have to understand now, the photography agencies aren't necessarily how they were, say, 20 years ago, when they were more eager to take on new talent. It was like where they would take on new talent and take a chance. Now it's like a lot of the photo agencies, they want you to already be making tons of money yourself. Mm-hmm. They want your client list. If they want your client list, like Loretta mentioned. They don't. A lot of them, some still do, but a lot of them, they want you already established.
Yes.
So it's not like it was back. Say 20
I'm hungry
years ago, to where they would take a chance on you and say, well, this person does good work, so I'm going to take a chance on them. So that's something you have to keep in mind. It's harder to actually get a photo rep. And I've always felt like, well, if I'm already that super established and I'm pretty good at negotiating, I don't know if I really want to give 20% away, but that's just me. But but yeah, anyone else can talk if they want. No.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything that you just said, Dana. The agencies now want you to be already established. They want to see that you've already booked campaigns on your own and you have a portfolio full of celebrities or high-end campaign work, or have shot Tyra Banks, for example. But I mean, yeah, I definitely say there are way more advantages than disadvantages. So, if an agency is interested in signing you, if they're a reputable agency, they're going to be able to put you in the room with people that you wouldn't have been able to just walk in there on your own. They're going to be able to get you seen. A lot of agencies send out promos. They send out emails to their client list, and that gets you in front of people that you wouldn't have been in front of just on your own.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. So definitely, I'm trying to get like you, Loretta. I'm putting it out there in the air. Hopefully, eventually signed and booking those major campaigns.
I want it for all of us. All of us.
Woo!
So someone asked. Oh, go ahead. No.
I think one of the things that no one really talked about for as, when they get an agent or trying to get commercial work has been the fact that most of the time they want you to see you're booked and busy with doing editorial work. They want to be able to see that you can tell a story with your work, not just taking beautiful pictures. Because at the end of the day, commercial workers tend to be kind of bland things. You don't really have a lot of creativity to it. It's very like the mundane, easy level work, but they really want to see how far you can push your own self. So that's when it comes to you doing your editorials, you're doing personal projects to really push your level of artistry as a photographer. So that is really truly the key to get your foot in the door in either an agency or even a commercial work, period.
Yeah, I tell people a lot of times to, whether it's a model, a makeup artist, a stylist, or other photographers, is to create work that makes people excited. Yes. Especially like when you're working with commercial isn't exciting. They already have a team of people that can come in and make it be exactly the way they visualize it or whatever, but they're just wanting to know that this person is exciting in the energy and the vibe. And I tell models all the time, like when they go into castings, every single person walking into the casting is capable of doing the job. Most of y'all are the same height, same size, blah, 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 this and that. They're looking for somebody that they're going to have fun with, that's going to be interesting to be on set for 8 hours or whatnot. And that's the same with us. They're looking for people that's going to, off top, be capable of doing the job. And most of the time, a blind monkey could do the job. So they're also looking for somebody that's going to be exciting, interesting, inspiring, memorable, all of that stuff. And if all of us are going for the same job, the person that's going to probably get it is the person they remember the most.
I have a question that came up that people may be interested in. Somebody in my group asked, what is the impact of age of a photographer that wants to enter the commercial editorial industry?
Age?
What is the impact of age?
Age. I was going to say, what?
Of a photographer that wants to enter the commercial editorial industry.
I think it's going to depend on the clients, because some clients are willing to take on younger photographers because they're lately the younger photographers are cutting edge, so to say, versus
they're really just cutting the money.
Yeah, that too. And versus the older, more established photographers, and some clients would prefer that. So I think it depends on the client, honestly. My answer on that. Some like them young, but that sounds weird. But, some are fine with young photographers, and some would prefer more experience, and so they will go with an older photographer who they feel has more experience.
I think.
I just want to kind of like piggyback off what Torres said and just, kind of just make this statement. Basically, I want to say that although commercial jobs are boring, they do pay. Okay. And that's how I started off really dark when I first was a photographer. And as I realized that money was really good, my whole portfolio changed. Mm-hmm. So that's why I always try to shoot in between, not too dark, but not too cheesy, but just something a little bit different. So yeah, I found that out real quick.
Yeah.
Were you gonna say something?
Okay. Desmond had a really good question. His question was, at your current level, how often do you shoot for fun, just for creation outside of commercial paid projects? And I actually get that question a lot. And I try to test shoot often, actually, like just to make sure that my creative juices are continuing to flow, because sometimes I get so caught up in creating commercial, just clean my background, model, clean face, and like that's done. And in my core, I'm a creative person. I like to play with color, I like to play with texture, I like to play with all these different fun things, and play with themes and concepts. So I like to make sure that I'm test shooting often, actually, to make sure that I'm still fulfilling like who I am as an artist and not getting caught up in just the money making factor. But I also take those opportunities, those TFP shoots, to test with new people, to establish connections with agencies, to maybe travel somewhere that I haven't traveled and do some fun things. And I try to recoup those costs on the back end, but at the same time, like I still try to make sure that I'm still doing fun work, because that's actually a lot of what attracts clients to me, is they see the fun work that I'm able to do, and they actually like that I bring that kind of like zany, whimsical aspect to my own personal work, and they want to see that that twist in the commercial work that I do for them. So I still try to produce work that makes me happy, and I'm able to bleed my work over into my commercial work. But as to answer Desmond's question directly, like I shoot creative, fun, personal projects often, several times a month.
Yes, same for me. I do shoot fun stuff a lot, but I also try to keep in mind to make it meaningful, to challenge myself. A couple of years ago, I actually sent my portfolio over to Dallas, and that was one of the things that he pointed out, was to make your shoots meaningful. And I got to tell you, it has literally transformed the way I shoot, because now I start to look at things a little bit different. I look at details a little bit more. I pick, a makeup artist a little bit better than I used to shoot. So even though we're out shooting for fun as often as we can, we still have to remember to make it meaningful and challenge ourselves to just not do something simple creatively. We really want to push ourselves when we're shooting for fun.
What I also like to say is, I'm a commercial photographer, and that means everything I shoot, even tests, have the ability to make money, even in licensing, if somebody even wants to buy artwork. So every time I shoot, I always think about how can it be marketed in any particular way. And it could be just a simple test shoot. So I fill out all the paperwork that I'm going to use, and eventually sometimes somebody will come to me and say, oh my God, I would love to license that image. And it was just something I did on a test. Yeah. So when I'm constantly shooting, or I'll shoot something that somebody wants to put artwork in their wall. And it was a test for somebody who paid me a couple $100 just to do a test or whatever. So it's a constant thing in my mind is, can this photography in the end make me money? No matter what I'm shooting. I can be shooting a can of Coca-Cola on my table because I like the way the light hits it. That can possibly make me money. So that's why I try to tell photographers, if you're trying to get in the commercial industry, you're trying to make that commercial money, you always need to think of how can you position this image to make money.
Shut up.
That was it.
Yeah, I still do fun shoots, I guess. Before COVID hit, 2 to 3 times a month I try to do them. I am also my fun shoots or test shoots also coincide with a personal project I'm doing as well. So they kind of go a little hand in hand there sometimes. Oh, Loretta. Oh, everyone with their pets. Okay, yeah. So yeah, mine's go hand in hand with a personal project, and then when I see models at specific agencies that I might want to test with, also that is something I would do as well. I find clients, and I don't know if it's the same for you guys. They book us on our fun shoots, you know, but what they want us to shoot is very boring, white background, and it's very, what they want us to shoot is usually very boring, but they like that we have the imagination to do something else.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask the next question if no one else wants to answer that one. The question from Summer. I've heard my brand and brands being brought up quite a bit throughout this discussion. Can you all give your view of what is important in your brand and what isn't? Logo, your face, product, etc.
I think for me, it's just a standard. Just a standard of photography that I deem to be professional. Like Dallas always say, you make things look expensive. So that's my thing. Make stuff look expensive. Make sure the artist shine. Make sure my talent shines. Make sure I give shine to the makeup artist and the hairstylist and things like that. I think for my brand, it just has to look clean and professional. That's pretty much what I care about.
And also being consistent with your brand.
Yes.
I think that's a real important one. I see a lot of people get into commercial photography and they start out shooting beauty and fashion, which is cool. And then they'll venture off into other areas of commercial photography, and it's not as good as the original genre that they shot. So just having some consistency helps a whole lot.
Agreed.
I think for my brand, I try to always make sure that my brand is colorful, bold, and have a lot of vibrancy there, because I feel like those 3 things will make my thumbprint distinguishable from anyone else. So I always make sure that any project I shoot, imagine it's a personal project or a commercial project, it has to contain those 3 elements for my brand of Antonio Martez Photography to be relevant in that photo.
I know when people, the most things that people have said about my work is they'll say, oh, your work is so clean and your work is so crisp. So those are 2 things I always think of to make sure I'm consistent with that, because that's what people associate me for. And they also can associate me with movement. They love to see movement in my work. So I always try to implement those adjectives into everything that I do. So it's almost like it's hard to have a signature in this industry that people come to you for that's those specific things. So I will always make sure that I have my signature in check so that you don't get surprised like, oh, all of a sudden Tarzan shoots some old dark shit. Like that's not ever what people associate me with. You know, or if I all of a sudden start shooting babies, that would throw everything out the loop. Like, what the fuck he shooting? I know what my strengths are, and I just keep being consistent with my strengths.
Nice.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on the idea of a signature. Like when people come to me, they know that my skin tones are going to be rich, they're going to be bright, and I always have glowy skin. That's like my thing. I am all about glowy skin. I'm always about rich skin tones and like nice saturated, not like super warm, but saturated skin tones. Like I want the skin tones to really reflect the richness. So I think it's super important, you know, Stevie, maybe, I'm sorry, I have a terrible memory, but was saying about being consistent. like literally if you scroll through my gram or you scroll through my website, you'll see that like there's very particular aspects of each photo that traverse and can be said about every single photo. So I think it's super important that as you're building your aesthetic, you start to literally imprint in your memory, like, hey, this is what I would like for everybody to see. And this is what, if you see a photo on the Explore page, like the goal is for people to be able to pick out your photo and be like, oh, that's, you know, that's Taylor's photo, without even having to click on the photo and see that your name is tagged underneath. So it's extremely important to establish your aesthetic. And once you find something that you really rock with, to stick with it. Or I mean, obviously you can have like changes every now and then if you feel like you need to take a corner and shift, but you still need to have an established aesthetic so that in the commercial world, people can start to recognize you as you.
And it was funny. Let me say this. It was another thing too that I remember sitting down with Aisha Jordan, and I asked her what did she like about what I do. And she said, I love how people's skin look because it looks real. And she's like, I've shot a lot of the same people that you work with, and I know that their skin don't be looking like that. And that's you. And so I always kind of thought about that. And I also thought about like when I asked my best friend, what did she like about what I do? And she said, I love texture. When I look at your work, I know what cotton feels like. I know what silk feels like. I know what their hair feels like because I can see it in the photo. And those are strengths. And basically you can just say, find what your strengths are and be consistent with that, you know?
When it comes to brand, I don't know what my brand is, because if you put my photographs in front of 5 different people, you're gonna get 5 different answers. So my brand is, for me, just pureness and honesty and beauty in the sense of I like to shoot my subjects with love.
Dallas, your brand is light.
Simple is simple enough. But what I'm trying to say is we all try to put forth a narrative, and no matter what narrative we put forth, our narrative would never be met that way, because somebody's going to view your work completely differently. So I go, when we're going to tell a story, let's tell our story and let the people interpret the story as they wish. Some people say your work is clean and crisp. His work looks expensive. Mine is just pretty black and white. That's going to be their narrative. No matter what we decide to make our brand going to be, our work is going to speak for itself to many different people in many different ways. So I don't get caught up in that particular thing, because then that tends to pigeonhole me into, well, my brand is going to be crisp. Every photo has to be crisp, but my brand. So I don't do that. My brand is who my brand needs to be for that person at that time. If you guys understand that.
That's interesting.
You know what I mean? So what I did for Makeup Geek would not be the same thing I did for Paul Mitchell.
You're absolutely right.
You know what I mean? It's a different feel.
And also thinking about,
and what we're doing for the Icon Man right now, it doesn't look like anything I've done before, but it's still my brand. You know what I mean?
But it still looks expensive.
My brand is flowers and color. That's my brand. Flowers and color. So, Antoine, I think you were about to say something.
Antonio is leaving us. Antonio, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Antonio.
It was a pleasure talking to you, actually.
Yeah, Antonio.
Thank you, guys, and I hope you all have a great evening, guys.
Bye, Antonio.
So I think for my brand, I think I like to keep the integrity of the person, as well as I'm really big on light. I'm really big on lighting and really big on just how things look in person. So I try my best to keep the integrity of how the person's skins look, how everything looks, whether I do an editorial shoot outside or whatever. I try my best to try to keep everything with the same, and we keep all the integrity of everything that I'm doing. So that way, and I think that goes back to the whole thing of just learning your craft and learning your camera settings and all that stuff is so, and also too, like skin texture, it being really clean. I know I have a YouTube channel up that I've done a long time ago that people still follow. And I think one of the things that a person said was, they was like, oh my gosh, it's amazing to see somebody actually, editing a Black person and they're not oversaturating their skin or what have you. So I try my best to maintain the integrity of who I'm photographing, and that's my brand. So I don't do a whole lot of body shaping or any of that stuff, liquefying, because I want to maintain the integrity of whoever I'm shooting. And I think a lot of clients like that when it comes to my brand itself. And also another thing that I've been told is that a part of my brand, which is not about the photography piece, but it's the responsiveness. A client can message me right now and I'll respond in a matter of seconds because I'm always connected. So I've been told that, I'm very responsive and I respond really quickly. So that in itself can get people to buy into you, no matter what, because they might have had another person that might have charged them. They might charge, the same price as you, but because you respond quicker to them, they feel like you have their attention. So that too. So I feel like that's one of the things about me that I think that I do well with my brand, is that I have that attention to those clients. So yeah.
Awesome. So the next question was, have any of you ever worked in Japan? And if so, what was your experience? I've never worked in Japan.
So I can say this. I've lived in Korea, like I say, 5 years. Korea and Japan are very similar to each other. It's hard. It's kind of almost like the New York thing. It's kind of like if you're not there, if you're not like already in, it's gonna be really hard to get in. Korea, like I said before, it's really tough. You almost have to be a celebrity photographer, like a true celebrity photographer worldwide, for them to be like, oh, okay, we'll bring you into this, because now it's not about who you are. It's not about your work as being great. It's basically just about your name. So I don't know if anybody else has worked in overseas or anything like that in the Asian community, but it's really hard.
Okay. Someone asked, I'm just going to answer this. Can you send out a list with each photographer's info? I will include it in the description of this video afterwards with everyone's name and Instagram, so you can go to check out their work if you want to. Okay.
Dana.
Yeah.
We're sorry to interrupt. We have to step out.
We got work to do.
We got work to do. That's do today.
Yeah,
guys, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for
appreciate
having
it.
us.
Hey y'all, before y'all leave, let's just wrap this up because I'm hungry. Yeah, I'm sitting here stomach ground. I'm glad it's on mute. Like
it ain't as mute as you think.
I really thank you guys for having us. I appreciate. I love.
We have to do this
again. Be able
again.
to speak to you guys face to face. Leslie, you are extremely beautiful. I kept complimenting you the entire
gorgeous.
time. Like, you're beautiful.
Yes, yes.
Leslie got that
thank
skin.
you.
Look at that skin. Look at them lips.
Exactly.
I'm sorry I've been moving around so much, y'all.
You got work
Sorry.
to do. Stuff to do.
Yeah.
But if you come to
I
California, we're shooting.
I just wanted to enjoy this conversation with everybody.
If you come to Cali, we're shooting.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, let's do it.
Love that skin tone.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. I'm finally home, y'all. I know that was a long ride.
It sure was.
Sorry.
Okay, you guys.
Bye.
So
Bye.
bye, Dallas and Day.
Thank you.
Bye, Tar.
Bye.
Okay, so I'm gonna answer maybe 2-3 more questions, and then I think we're gonna wrap this up. Let me just find 2 or 3 of the best questions. Okay, so Summer says it's such an oversaturated market right now. How do you truly stand out among the pile?
Ooh. It is oversaturated, but honestly, I still feel like there's room for everybody. Just focus on yourself and not what you think the competition is. And there's enough room for everyone in the business of photography. I mean, honestly, There's photographers that pop up every day. There's photographers that have been doing this for years, and there's enough room for everyone. Just make sure that you have a strong body of work, you're consistent, you don't give up, and you find who your client is, find your niche. Yeah. It's enough room for everyone. I won't even focus on it being oversaturated, because if you think about how oversaturated it is, it will make you not want to do it. You just got to make yourself stand apart, stand out from the rest.
Yeah. Anybody else have anything to say on that one?
I was gonna say, go to the grocery store and look at how many brands of bread there is. There's no such thing as oversaturation. If you got a good product and you're consistent with it, people will follow that and people will cater to that. So if you just focus on that, you don't have to worry about what anybody else is doing.
See, you making me hungry now.
Okay. Daniel says Dana once suggested separate platforms, websites for different styles, brands. And yes, I always say separate your websites if you're doing like portrait and commercial or portrait and fashion. But he wants to know what is you guys' take on that, separating websites, social medias from different types of genres of photography.
Well, I've got two Instagrams.
Oh, you do, Taylor? Go ahead.
I do. I have two Instagrams. I relatively recently, like within the past few months, I started my Taylor B2 Instagram page, which is eventually going to be built into my product page. It's still in the works. It's still, in its little infancy, but I do both beauty and product at the moment, and they often overlap. So I think that it's been very easy for me to have a second page and occasionally kick content over to that page. But on my primary page, my Taylor B page, I have a lot of photos with like, say, a model holding a product. So it makes sense for me to have like the actual product be the next photo, because it gives me a very nice cohesive little flow. So, I mean, it really depends on what your niches are. And if you have cohesive aesthetics for those niches, or if you have one aesthetic for like your one niche over here, and you have a separate aesthetic, you may be like dark and moody over here, and you may be like light and airy over here. If your two niches can kind of exist, amenably within the same space, then there can be overlap, and that's fine, because often it's the same client booking you for both niches anyway. I mean, I get beauty. I get like product clients who want to book me for beauty. So it makes sense that both niches are on the same page. But if you've got two different niches that cannot kind of coexist within the same space, it makes sense to just go ahead and split them up.
I agree. I mean, you don't want to have a website where you're doing weddings and fashion. It just seems kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
But I would just hone in on what you want to do. I know starting off, you might be doing a little bit of everything, but finding that one niche, and just like Taylor said, if you're doing beauty and you're doing products, those go hand in hand, but you don't want to really be all over the place. So you don't want to be shooting babies, weddings, and products and food. You want to kind of just hone in on what you're good at. Otherwise, it just gets really confusing. You can't figure out who your client is, and you're just all over the place. But if you're going to do them, yes, separate them. So if you're going to like, okay, I'll do 5 weddings a year or whatever, have that on a totally separate website. Because if I'm going to your website and I want to see a fashion photographer, I don't want to see weddings. So, yeah.
Yeah. I've stressed this a lot for anyone who's a friend with me on Facebook. I am always like separate, and like Taylor mentioned, some genres go together. Like if you like to do weddings, engagements, and let's say boudoir, those 3 things can be on a website together, and they can be on a social media. Boudoir maybe sometimes. Those 3 things or 2 things can be on the same website together, and they can be on the same social media together. But then flip that, if you also do product photography of all types of products, then that's gonna look very weird on your wedding website. So in that instance, like Leslie said, you're gonna need to separate those. Me personally, I have my fashion product website. And then I have the Instagram for that. But then I also have an Instagram for just my product stuff. And for me, that works because, as Leslie said, appear specialized. If you like to shoot more stuff, if you like to shoot portraits and babies and so forth, put that on a separate site than your fashion. Because while your portrait clients might think it's cool that you do fashion work, commercial advertising work, the advertising clients are not going to care whose little snotty nosed baby you're photographing right now. They're not going to care. It's going to turn them off because that's not what they want to see. So keep that in mind. If you're going to shoot a lot of stuff, appear to be specialized. So separate it. Yeah.
If you don't, then they're going to have a low perceived value of your work. So that's why it's important to separate the two.
Yeah. Okay, one more question, and then I think we're going to wrap this up because it's almost midnight here. Let's see. Just trying to pick a good one. I don't know. Do you guys see one in the chat that I might be missing that looks I think I answered most of them, asked most of them. Okay, here's one. Do you all do photo shoots that you don't normally do, like family portraits or headshots that a client asks you to do from a commercial job?
Yeah, and vice versa. A lot of my commercial work comes from the retail space. So if I'm shooting like a headshot for somebody, they may own a business. So now I'm like, hey, I heard you own a business, do you need commercial work? And vice versa, when I do commercial work, they may need a headshot. So they definitely intertwine and can work for you in both industries.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Yeah, I mean, I do like headshots and that type of thing because it fills in the corners and it's good, consistent work. But I mean, the goal, right, is to stay on track and continue doing what I want to be doing. But as Stevie said, like I get like a lot of the younger brands that I work with, they need a good headshot. And I was just like, sure, that increases the value for them. We're already talking to them. We already have a great rapport going. And it's a good upsell for them. You're talking to them, you're like, okay, we're doing this shoot. I'm gonna shoot your lashes. It's gonna be real cute and you're gonna have a great time. By the way, like, do you have a headshot? I don't see a headshot on your website. Like, do you have one? And then it's suddenly, no, oh my God, I've been meaning to get one done. Oh my goodness. It's so funny because I do headshots. So it's a really good way to upsell your client and, to add value for them. And they feel special because now they're getting, the Taylor B experience for their product, but they're also having a great experience, at the same time for themselves. And it makes them feel special. It makes them feel good. So you might as well propose that to them, if you see that opening there. And it's, it's again, just a great way to fill in those financial corners.
Yeah.
I sometimes, but I have to draw the line at certain things like babies and weddings. And I've literally had people beg me, oh, can you shoot my wedding? No, I don't shoot weddings. Or friends that it's just, I want to shoot things that I'm excited to shoot, that I'm passionate about. Otherwise, it'll just be a totally bad experience. And I once shot a baby. It was for a client and she was like, no, I don't want the glitz and glam. I'm like, I don't shoot babies. I don't have any baby props. Then she was like, no, I want that clean look. I want a fashion shoot for my baby. And I should have just said no. The baby actually ended up toppling over onto the floor at one point. And I was just like, oh God. And so like, no, never will I shoot a baby. But if it's a headshot or something that is kind of in alignment, then yeah, I will.
Awesome. All right, you guys. Well, I think we are going to bring this to a close. Any of you photographers left want to say any last words? I think we pretty much exhausted ourselves with our words already. So I thank you all for tuning in with us today. This was very fun. I might try to do something like this once a month, get some of us together so we can just chat and powwow, and you guys can ask us questions and hang out with us for a little bit. Next time might be a little bit shorter though. But I thank all of you photographers for joining in on this chat today. You guys are all awesome. And let's, yeah, I think that's it.
Well, thanks so much for having me, Dana. I really enjoyed this. We gotta do this again.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was great.
I think this was
I'm just so glad to meet all of you.
And I'm gonna put everyone's information, everyone's IGs in the description of this YouTube, and this YouTube video will stay up. So if you weren't able to watch it all in this segment, you can watch it later. And yeah, we are gonna sign out, you guys. You guys have a good day, and yeah, we'll see you guys later.
Thank you, Dana.
Have a good night/day.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.